Chapter 7:22. This scene was much more vivid than before. Seeing this, Yang Tian couldn't help but worry for the strange program. Next, an even more bizarre scene occurred. Countless white threads were fired at the strange program from afar like sharp arrows from afar. The strange program that looked like Xiao Long was like a stubborn rock by the sea. Under the attack of the countless white threads, it stood firm and unmoving. When the white threads hit the strange program, they actually turned into runes that spread out in all directions. Soon, the surroundings were filled with messy runes, like drifting snowflakes. Although these white threads were clones of little talisman, they were still made up of countless runes. When they hit the strange program, they disintegrated. When the surrounding runes were densely packed to a certain extent, the strange program that looked like Xiao Long opened its mouth and inhaled. Countless runes entered its mouth and disappeared. These runes had become the strange program's supplement. After swallowing these runes, the strange program that looked like Xiao Long grew several times larger. Little Talisman's attack wasn't limited to this. Seeing that the scattered clones couldn't swallow the strange program, it quickly stopped attacking. The countless white threads continued to fly and revolve around the strange program. It looked like it was looking for a flaw in the strange program. The strange program that looked like Xiao Long had a contemptuous smile in its eyes. Seeing this, Yang Tian couldn't help but laugh. He knew that the rune program called Little Talisman most likely couldn't do anything to the strange program. Yang Tian thought for a moment and understood the reason. The rune program that the rune master created was a tool. This tool couldn't go against his will and couldn't have its own thoughts. Compared to the strange program, this was one level lower in terms of evolution. Yang Tian had never treated the strange program as a tool, but as a partner. This acknowledgement of the strange program not only allowed it to evolve continuously, but also become a true life form. Seeing that its first attack had failed, Little Talisman quickly changed its attack method. Countless white threads suddenly gathered together and turned into a monster that looked like a toad. This monster was much bigger than the little dragon that the strange program had transformed into. It opened its mouth and swallowed the strange program into its stomach. Although he knew that the strange program would win, Yang Tian still felt nervous when he saw this situation. Just as Yang Tian's nervousness appeared, the monster's body suddenly exploded. A dragon pushed its body apart and turned it into countless runes. The strange program that had transformed into a dragon opened its mouth again, and countless runes were swallowed by it once more. Just like that, the hundreds of millions of clones that Little Fu had created were wiped out by the strange program. Come back! Little Talisman's attack methods were far more than just these two. It was about to create countless clones to attack again when it was stopped by Talisman Lord. If Xiao Fu still had self-awareness, it would definitely not be convinced and would insist on fighting a few rounds with the strange program. However, once the rune master gave the order, it retreated back into the rune mechanical beast's body without any hesitation. This time, Little Fu's attack failed again. After these few rounds of battle, Talisman Lord had to admit that Little Talisman was indeed inferior to Yang Tian's rune program. If the two rune programs continued to battle, it would be impossible to determine the victor in a short time. If Talisman Lord knew that the strange program had not used its full strength and had only used a small portion of its strength to fight Little Talisman while spending most of its energy on investigating the natural rune array, he would definitely be shocked again. Sigh. Why did you stop? I'm not full yet. After Little Talisman retreated, the strange program said indifferently. Its tone of voice was very much like Yang Tian's. The strange program had evolved into a true life form by Yang Tian's side, so it was naturally influenced by Yang Tian. Have you found Talisman Lord's location? How do we get out? Yang Tian asked with a smile. The strange program said, just a little bit more. Just a little bit more? Then they would just have to wait a little longer. With the strange program, Yang Tian, who was trapped in the space illusion, was not worried at all about not being able to get out. At this moment, after absorbing a large amount of energy, Talisman Lord looked even older, and his voice had changed a lot. He glanced at the rune mecha, and a trace of reluctance flashed across his eyes. He said indifferently, "Little Talisman, I didn't expect Yang Tian to have the same rune program as you. I can't wait any longer. Whether I succeed or not will depend on you now. Master, goodbye." Little Talisman, who had always responded to Talisman Lord in a straightforward manner, paused after saying the word "master" before saying the word "goodbye." Little Talisman's behavior made Society Lord frown, and he closed his eyes. He already knew that Little Talisman had developed a little self-awareness. Talisman Lord's next plan would only succeed if he abandoned Little Talisman. If Yang Tian did not have the help of the strange program, Talisman Lord would not have given Little Talisman his final order. After Talisman Lord closed his eyes, his expression was calm, but in truth, he was somewhat sad. But when he thought about how he would soon complete his plan and become the most powerful life form in the world, the sadness in his heart quickly disappeared. Boom! Suddenly, the rune mecha beast lying on the natural rune array's energy line exploded, and Little Talisman completely entered the natural rune array's energy line. After Little Talisman left, a blue beam of light shot down from the top of the cave and shone on Talisman Lord. In the blue light, Talisman Lord's figure disappeared in a flash. "All right, I've gathered enough information about the natural rune array." Before the strange program could finish, it said, "Trouble is coming." Rumble. Before the strange program could finish its sentence, another rumbling sound could be heard. Following the rumbling sound, the entire illusion began to tremble. "What's going on?" Yang Tian asked. The strange program said, "Little Talisman swallowed the natural rune array and activated some of its special functions. Unfortunately, such an opponent is gone. After transmitting its will to the natural rune array, it was destroyed. Now, you should know what Talisman Lord wants to do, right?" Yang Tian asked with a frown. "Yes." The strange program said, "Talisman Lord wants to use the natural rune array to control the entire continent and move it into his own energy world." Yang Tian was shocked. How is that possible?" The strange program said, "This is the information I've just received. Before Little Talisman was destroyed, the rune energy that it released contained some information about its consciousness. Unfortunately, it will soon have a complete self-consciousness. This old man is really amazing." Yang Tian could not help but admire Talisman Lord's crazy idea. Someone who could create a rune program had a different way of thinking from ordinary people. Next, if Talisman Lord succeeded, the entire continent, including all the living beings living on this continent, would enter Talisman Lord's energy world. At that time, Talisman Lord would be the true god of this world. His consciousness would be everywhere. With just a thought, he would be able to kill all the living beings in this world without any chance of resistance. They would not be able to escape even if they wanted to, and they would not even know where to run. Yang Tian finally understood that what the Talisman Lord had told him earlier was not completely true. There were only 9 truths and 1 lie. Chapter 723. The Talisman Lord reappeared in a light green space. Above his head was a green sphere with a diameter of tens of meters. The green ball emitted a faint green light. If one were to look closely, they would discover that there were countless tiny threads emanating from the green ball, extending to places that could not be seen. After appearing here, the Talisman Lord raised his head to look at the green sphere before sitting down cross-legged in the void. Immediately after, the Talisman Lord waved his hands rapidly, releasing powerful runic energy waves from his hands. Triggered by the runic energy, the green sphere suddenly glowed brightly. Within the green light, the Talisman Lord's body rapidly transformed from an old man to a young man. With his eyes closed, the Talisman Lord clasped his hands together. His lips curled into a smug smile. After the small talisman merged with the natural runic array, it was like installing an operating system into a computer, causing the computer to start up. As the natural runic array had grown for countless years, it had already covered the entire continent. Once it underwent a transformation, the entire continent began to shake. On the ground, a trumpet-shaped crater began to crack open. This was the center of the natural runic array, so the commotion was the greatest. Soon, the crater split into two halves. A red light shot out from the bottom of the crack, dyeing the sky red. The cultivators gathered in this area looked up at the sky in unison and saw many strange patterns appear in the sky. Some of these patterns looked like tree roots, some like the shadow of a human body, some like a strange beast, some like a runic array, and some like the starry sky. That's the ley line map. No way! This must be the ley line map. What's a ley line map? Our cultivation techniques were comprehended by the ancients from the ley line map. The real ley line map must be below. In the red light, the patterns were very blurry. Many people did not know what the patterns were. When someone mentioned the ley line map, everyone became excited. No matter how powerful a cultivator was, they were still filled with reverence for this world. This was because all cultivation techniques, including runes, were comprehended by intelligent life based on astronomical phenomena. Amidst the rumbling, the crack in the ground grew larger. It only stopped when it was several hundred meters wide and several hundred kilometers long. At this time, more images appeared in the sky and they became clearer. Looking at the mysterious diagram in the sky, the cultivators gathered here all believed that this was the legendary ley line map. The cultivators who came here immediately ran to the edge of the crack and looked down. What appeared before their eyes was a red, illusory starry sky. Cultivators who were born and raised in this world had never truly seen the starry sky before. To them, this scene was too shocking. However, in Black Talisman Lord's eyes, this scene was too normal. He had seen all kinds of starry sky wonders when he was living in his original world. This must be the legendary Shanghai. It's simply too beautiful. I think so. Who would have thought that one day we would be able to see the sea of stars? It feels so close to us. I have a weird feeling. If I were to fly in the sea of stars, it would be very free. Hearing others say the word freedom, Black Talisman Lord missed his previous world. Thinking back to when he was flying freely in the universe, although this world was very big, it was still a little small compared to the previous universe world. In that world, perhaps his realm wasn't high enough. He had never found the edge of the universe. However, this world had an edge. The edge of the continent was the Shanghai. When he saw the astonishment in the eyes of others, the word earthen appeared in Black Talisman Lord's mind. In Yang Tian's words, they were country bumpkins who had never seen the world. When he thought of the word earthen, Black Talisman Lord looked at the people around him again. The cultivators who appeared in his line of sight had eyes full of infatuation, which then turned into fanaticism. Ha ha ha! Suddenly, someone not far away laughed loudly and jumped down, disappearing into the red, starry sky scene. With the first, there was a second and a third. Danger! Black Talisman Lord couldn't help but shout when he saw the person closest to him jump down. However, no one paid any attention to him. One after another, they jumped down from the edge of the crack and disappeared into the starry sky. Black Talisman Lord didn't need to think to know that the starry sky under the crack was just an illusion. Even though he knew it was dangerous, Black Talisman Lord still looked at the red starry sky again. He didn't feel it earlier, but this time, he felt as if his soul was being sucked in. There was only one thought in his mind, which was to enter this free world. Black Talisman Lord's eyes were filled with madness. Just as Black Talisman Lord was about to jump down, he suddenly felt a pain at the back of his neck and quickly retreated. The intense pain woke Black Talisman Lord up. When he turned around, he realized that it was Ku Man who had stopped him. "Thank you." Black Talisman Lord was embarrassed. He smiled awkwardly when he saw the faint smile on Ku Man's face. Ku Man didn't say anything. He brushed past Black Talisman Lord and quickly walked to the edge of the crack. It was then that Black Talisman Lord noticed that there were hundreds of elders in purple robes who had appeared with Ku Man. These people's realms were very high and they were very domineering. It was obvious that these people were the higher-ups of the Everlasting Temple. Ah! Ku Man came to the edge of the crack and looked down. He seemed to be struggling. Suddenly, he shouted and took a few steps back. Even someone as powerful as Ku Man was almost attracted by the scene below and couldn't help but jump down. After the collapse of Lama Mountain, more and more cultivators came here. At this point, there were at least a few million people gathered here. Most of the cultivators here were not even as powerful as Black Talisman Lord. When they saw the scene below, they were immediately attracted and jumped down like dumplings. In less than half an hour, more than 90% of the cultivators had jumped into the scene in space. No one knew what they had encountered and whether they were dead or alive. When there were fewer people, Black Talisman Lord said that there were a group of people in white robes on the opposite side of the crack. There was a group of people in blue robes on the left. Those in purple robes were from the Everlasting Temple. Those in white robes were from the Sky Domain Temple. Those in blue robes were from the Astral Temple. Those from the three temples didn't stop the cultivators from jumping down. Because those who jumped down were all cultivators with low realms, and they had nothing to do with the three temples. Also, after these people jumped down, there might be some anomalies that they could use as a reference. Starting tomorrow, I will pay back my debt. Chapter 724. When a large number of cultivators were attracted by the mysterious power and jumped into the starry sky scene, the green ball floating above Talisman Lord's head began to change color. It first turned dark green, then black. The green ball was originally filled with vitality, but after it turned black, an aura of death spread from it. Talisman Lord, who had his eyes closed, smiled faintly. "What is this place?" The first cultivator to enter the starry sky scene quickly woke up after a short moment of obsession and let out a scream. Around him, there were sparse dots that emitted a faint red light. They looked like countless dust particles. If one looked at them with a magnifying glass, they would discover that these red dots were actually red balls covered with countless red patterns. This person's scream caused the surrounding red dots to tremble. Stimulated by the sound waves, these small red particles suddenly underwent a change. From the surface of the particles, densely packed filaments that were difficult to see with the naked eye extended out. At the same time, the red light emitted by the red dots suddenly intensified by many times. This cultivator was just about to move when suddenly, his entire body went numb. He couldn't move even if he wanted to. It turned out that the thin threads that extended from the red dots had already drilled into his body. These red threads were extremely strange. Not only did they absorb the energy in his body, but they even invaded his energy world. After the red dots began to absorb energy through the red threads, they began to slowly expand and brighten. This person couldn't even blink his eyelids. His face maintained a look of horror. The thin threads absorbed all kinds of energy. After this person's energy was sucked dry and the energy world in his body was destroyed, his body was next. His body quickly dried up, and soon, he was a dried corpse. At this time, the hundreds of red balls surrounding this dried corpse had already become the size of a fist. They didn't even let the dried corpse go. After retrieving the thin threads, they quickly stuck to the dried corpse. In less than 10 minutes, there was nothing left of such a cultivator in the illusion realm. This wasn't the only cultivator who encountered such a situation. Other cultivators also encountered the same situation. It was just that cultivators in higher realms lasted longer. Of course, some cultivators were more cautious. When they woke up, They didn't act rashly and didn't activate the red dots for the time being. Some reacted faster and immediately used the energy in their bodies to block the thin threads that extended from the red dot. As long as these red threads didn't enter the cultivator's body, the absorption speed was slower. The cultivators standing at the edge of the crack could see that the starry sky below had suddenly brightened by many times. The ley line map projected in the sky had become clearer. The picture was obviously fake, and it was meant to attract more cultivators. This strange scene in the sky could be seen clearly even tens of thousands of kilometers away. More cultivators were rushing over. Not only that, there were also many strange beasts running over in groups, causing the ground to tremble with every step they took. It was even louder than 10,000 galloping horses. The ley line map in the sky could attract mutated beasts. When Black Talisman Lord came out, he immediately sent the situation here to Shi Chen Yu using the long-distance teleportation formation. Black Talisman Lord, who had almost jumped down, felt a lingering fear. When the three temples weren't paying attention, he activated the rune treasure in his hand and sent the situation here to Shi Chen Yu again. At this time, Shi Chen Yu and the others were already halfway there. Rumble, the ground shook. The beasts had finally arrived. The leading exotic beast stopped at the edge of the rift, but the exotic beasts behind it followed one after another. Even if the exotic beast in front wasn't bewitched by the starry sky below, it was still pushed down by the exotic beasts behind it, falling headfirst into the starry sky. In addition to the mutated beasts on the ground, there were also beasts flying in the sky. They were so dark that they covered the entire sky. These flying mutated beasts circled above the crack a few times before falling down around the crack. The human cultivators who weren't confused by the starry sky had already flown into the air before the beasts arrived. They stayed away from the crack and floated in the air not far away. This kind of scene was really too shocking. We have to stop them. Otherwise, we'll lose the balance and it'll be disadvantageous to our temples. 100 meters in the air, an old man said with a frown when he saw the countless exotic beasts pouring into the crack like a tidal wave. Ku Man nodded and said solemnly, "If we let this continue, the number of mutated beasts will decrease greatly. It'll be difficult to obtain life crystals in the future." Seeing the mutated beasts of Destiny State or even higher levels rushing into the crack and disappearing into the starry sky, the cultivators' hearts were bleeding. Those mutated beasts were high-level life crystals to them. They were gone just like that. Although they wanted to stop it, they couldn't do anything at the moment. They could only watch. At this time, a white-robed Empyrean temple warden flew to the edge of the crack and threw a punch at the starry sky below. The powerful force of the punch cut through the air and produced an ear-piercing sound as it rushed toward the starry sky. However, when the force of the punch hit the starry sky that came into contact with the force of the punch suddenly flashed and returned to normal. Such a simple attack obviously wouldn't have any effect. A blue-robed Empyrean temple warden took out a hexagonal rune weapon and tapped it a few times. 5 different colored rune energies rushed out of the rune weapon and condensed into a 5-colored ball of light in the air. The ball of light suddenly exploded and countless sharp rays of light fell like raindrops. Each of these scattered rays of light was stronger than the force of the Empyrean Temple Warden's punch. However, when they landed in the starry sky, there was no reaction at all. It seemed that it wasn't easy to destroy the starry sky like this. Just as the cultivators were frowning, a series of buzzing sounds suddenly rang out in the distance. Then, the flying beasts that were circling in the sky scattered in all directions. The sound came from a large number of large spaceships. It turned out that the automatons had arrived. After the spaceships drove away the mutated beasts in the sky, they stopped above the crack and dropped silver-white metal pillars that were 1 meter in diameter. The dense metal pillars landed in the middle of the mutated beasts and were drowned by the mutated beasts like sandbags thrown into a flood. At first glance, the metal pillars seemed to have no effect on the mutated beast. However, upon closer inspection, the speed at which the mutated beasts were rushing toward the crack was gradually decreasing. Chapter 725. About half an hour later, the beast horde finally stopped 1 kilometer away from the crack. The sky was filled with spaceships from the automaton race. Naturally, the leyline map that was projected in the sky had disappeared. Looking from the sky, the area within 10 kilometers of the crack was filled with beasts. The closer one was to the crack, the more beasts there were. Densely packed metal pillars were erected 1 kilometer away from the crack. Even the largest exotic beast wouldn't be able to pass through this steel forest. It was not safe to just stop the beast horde. After the beast horde was stopped, the spaceships in the sky began to attack the beast horde on the ground. The beast horde scattered amidst the loud explosions. Although there were more beasts than the beast horde, they did not have a unified leader. The automaton race easily dispersed the beast horde. After the beast horde dispersed, a large number of cultivators gathered at the edge of the crack. The 3 holy temples gathered millions of disciples and had the automaton race transport them over in their spaceship. Once the beast horde dispersed, they came down from the spaceships and guarded the crack tightly. Just my limitless divine palace alone has billions of disciples. This is only a small part of it, Ku-man said proudly when he saw the surprised look on Black Talisman Lord's face. Actually, Black Talisman Lord was not surprised by the number of disciples from the 3 holy temples, but the strength of the disciples. Even an ordinary disciple was at the illusion realm, which was the same as Black Talisman Lord. Naturally, some people were not happy about being stopped by the holy temples. Soon, they were suppressed by the holy temples. After a short commotion, it finally calmed down. Suddenly, 3 different colored lights flashed and flew over from afar. They stopped above the crack. 3 young men came. The 3 of them wore black robes, white robes, and blue robes respectively. Black Talisman Lord knew that they were elites from the 3 holy temples. The 3 of them did not emit any powerful aura, but they gave off a strong feeling. Temple Master, just as Black Talisman Lord was guessing who the 3 young men were, the disciples of the holy temples, including Ku-man, all knelt on one knee and bowed. It turned out that these 3 young men were the temple masters of the 3 temples. "Get up!" The black-robed young man raised his hand and said indifferently. His voice sounded soft, but it traveled far. The disciples of the Divine Hall who were kneeling down stood up. Black Talisman Lord was not a member of the 3 major temples, so he did not kneel. When the disciples of the temples knelt down, he narrowed his eyes and sized up the 3 of them. Among them, the young man in a black robe was naturally the hall master of the everlasting temple, Kuang Xing. According to Ku-man, this person had just taken over as Limitless Temple's temple master and was secretly cultivated by the previous temple master. The temple was like a country. The previous temple master would not hand over the temple to an outsider. Kuang Xing was probably the son of the previous temple master. The hall master's orders could not be disobeyed. Even if he ordered an ordinary human to take over as hall master, no one would dare to object. What's more, Kuang Xing was also in the heavens travel realm. When he took over, he showed great strength. He was in the heavens travel realm. Many of the officials who were greedy and wanted to replace him gave up on the idea. Kuang Xing had shoulder-length silver hair and a black triangular mark on his forehead. The young man in a white robe was the hall master of the Sky Domain Temple. He had short red hair and was called Yugui. There was a red cloud mark between his eyebrows. He looked a little demonic. The young man in a blue robe was the hall master of the Starry Sky Temple. His name was Jimmy. He had long purple hair and 2 purple dots between his eyebrows. These 3 people were undoubtedly the top experts of this continent. After asking the disciples to stand up, the 3 hall masters looked down. At #% %% %yen, Following this, the three hall masters began to speak in an ancient language under the crowd's gaze. What are the three hall masters talking about? Black Talisman Lord was very curious when he heard the three's chatter. He glanced at Ku Man beside him and asked indifferently. His words sounded more like he was talking to himself. Ku Man glanced at Black Talisman Lord and whispered, "The hall masters are using the secret language of the temple. Only the hall masters can use this language. If Black Talisman Lord could understand the language of the three, he would definitely be shocked." The three hall masters were all in the soul travel realm. With their realm, they could already control their minds and not be confused by the starry sky scene below. After observing for a while, Limitless Temple's Hall Master Kuang Xing said indifferently, "After waiting for so long, it's finally starting." "Yes." Starry Sky Temple's Hall Master Ji-Mi sighed. "Our Starry Sky Temple has already changed 5 Hall Masters. That guy is really..." Sky Domain Temple's Hall Master Yu Gui laughed. He looked even more demonic. In this world, only that person can do it. He thought that he did it secretly, but he didn't know that our 3 great temples had already noticed it. "Then let's begin," Kuang Xing said indifferently the moment Yu Gui finished speaking. Although Kuang Xing was the new hall master, his tone was even more arrogant in front of Yu Gui and Ji-Mi. This was because the strength of the 3 great temples was still divided. The Limitless Temple's strength was already above the Sky Domain Temple and Starry Sky Temple. If the Sky Domain Temple and Starry Sky Temple joined forces, the Limitless Temple would naturally be no match for them. But separately, they were far inferior to the Limitless Temple. After Kuang Xing finished speaking, Ji-Mi turned around and said, "Chan Chan, come here." Yes, before Ji-Mi finished speaking, a girl's voice was heard. Soon, a girl in a blue robe walked out from the crowd of Starry Sky Temple disciples with a green turtle in her hand. At that moment, the gazes of everyone present were focused on the young woman. This girl in a blue robe was Hui Chan Chan. Kuang Xing looked at Hui Chan Chan and shook his head. He then looked at Ji-Mi and said, "You're so lucky." Ji-Mi smiled. He was very happy. Something strange happened. When he smiled, the 2 purple dots in between his eyebrows changed positions. Then, his appearance changed. He became a woman. He looked even more beautiful than Yu Gui. "Let your pet go down and take a look." When Hui Chan Chan came closer, Ji-Mi said indifferently. When Hui Chan Chan heard the hall master asking her to put the little green turtle down in a dangerous place, she became worried. Ji-Mi frowned. The 2 purple dots in between his eyebrows changed positions again, and he became a man again. He said in a serious tone, "Chan Chan, are you going to disobey my orders?" "I don't dare." Hui Chan Chan looked up and saw the hall master's serious expression. She was afraid and quickly said. But she didn't want the little green turtle to take the risk. Just as Hui Chan Chan was hesitating, the little green turtle suddenly jumped up from Hui Chan Chan's hand. In a flash, it charged into the starry sky scene. At this moment, Hui Chan Chan, who was connected to the little green turtle, felt the little green turtle's happiness. Chapter 726. After the little green tortoise entered the scene, it disappeared. Before Hui and Chan Chan came, they already knew that it was very dangerous below. Many cultivators jumped into the scene after being confused and disappeared without a trace. No one knew if they were dead or alive. Fortunately, after the little green tortoise entered the scene, its mental connection with Hui and Chan Chan did not break. Hui and Chan Chan even knew where the little green tortoise was. This made Hui and Chan Chan feel relieved. Is this useful? After the little green tortoise entered the scene, Yu Gui looked at Ji-Mi and said calmly. Ji-Mi said, "The talisman formation below is called the Dead Sea. It's a special environment in the Sea of Stars. Only gods with godhoods and beasts from the Sea of Stars can survive in such an environment." After Ji-Mi finished speaking, Kuang Xing said, "It's fine if it doesn't appear, but once it does, something corresponding to it will appear. That was the reason why this exotic beast had come. Otherwise, we'll have to put in a lot of effort to destroy this Dead Sea. Although Black Talisman Lord did not understand what the three temple lords were talking about, he could roughly guess from their expressions. He felt that the strange phenomenon caused by the Talisman Lord seemed to have been schemed against by the three temple lord. Thinking about it, it made sense. The three great temples had ruled this continent for countless years and were everywhere. The natural talisman array must be under their surveillance. When the Talisman Lord acted, it seemed that the three great temples had never interfered with him. This was a big problem. At this moment, the Talisman Master under the Black Sphere in the mysterious space clearly sensed the arrival of the Lord of the Divine Hall. He could not help but grin as he murmured, "I've finally lured you out after causing such a huge commotion. This is wonderful. Who was the mantis and who was the oriole?" The mirage in the sea of stars Yang Tian was in also changed greatly. In this world filled with red roots, a lot of red, fist-sized balls appeared all of a sudden. At first, these red balls were few in number, but in less than half an hour, they became very dense. The strange thing was that these red balls were emitting an aura of death. Furthermore, Yang Tian could feel an aura of despair from these red balls. It was like the will released by a human at the moment of death. Yang Tian still did not know that these glowing red balls were only glowing red dots in the past. After they killed cultivators and exotic beasts and absorbed their energy, they naturally appeared here. What are these? Huey Meow Meow lifted the soft whip in her hand and wanted to touch the red ball. However, she was stopped by Yang Tian. He glanced at Huey Meow Meow. Huey Meow Meow turned around and looked in the direction Yang Tian was looking at. One of the red balls floated to the side of a red root. A series of ripples appeared, and the red ball seemed to have touched the surface of the water. If it was an ordinary floating object, it would definitely be repelled by this layer of invisible energy. However, the red ball seemed to be stuck to the red tree root. In just a moment, it broke through the red tree root's protective barrier and touched the red tree root. As a matter of fact, these red roots were the energy lines of a natural rune array. When the red ball touched them, it stuck to them and started to shrink rapidly. At the same time, the rune energy lines that came into contact with the red ball immediately lost their luster. The color became darker and darker until it finally turned black. Then, it slowly shattered and turned into black fragments. In this extremely short period of time, a large piece of rune energy lines was destroyed. Ah! Seeing this, Huey Meow Meow could not help but cover her mouth and cry out in shock. These red balls seemed to have an extremely strong corrosive ability. If they touched a person's body, Huey Meow Meow did not dare to imagine what would happen. Ever since the strange program fought with Lil Fu, which was also a rune program, the Star Sea illusion, which was called by the Rune Master, had completely calmed down. There were no more illusions. Yang Tian did not move either. The natural rune formation was enormous. What appeared before Yang Tian and the rest was only a small part of it. At the moment, the strange program was still attached to the natural rune formation's energy lines and reading its information. It would be easy to leave this place, but Yang Tian did not leave immediately because the strange program told Yang Tian that this was the easiest place to obtain information about the natural rune formation. More and more red balls the size of fists appeared. Yang Tian had to use his mental power to push them away. Fortunately, mental power was useful against these terrifying red balls. Otherwise, he would have to leave this place immediately. More and more red balls appeared, and their destructive power became more and more powerful. In less than half an hour, most of the rune energy lines were destroyed. The strange program could no longer obtain the information of the natural rune array through these rune energy lines. After breaking away from the rune energy lines, the program asked Yang Tian if they wanted to leave this place immediately. Yang Tian shook his head because he was very curious about the illusion in front of him. He wanted to see what changes would happen next. When all of the rune energy lines were destroyed by the red balls, Yang Tian and Huey Meow Meow were already floating in the air. Their surroundings became dark. The darkness did not last for long. Like black paint being peeled off, pieces of it shattered, revealing the blue walls of the cave. The blue cave wall seemed to be made of blue crystals. Its surface was smooth and somewhat transparent. Boom! 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 The remaining red balls collided with the blue cave wall and exploded, causing a series of rumbles. Each time a red ball exploded, the entire space shook. Large pieces of blue fragments fell off the cave wall and scattered in the air. They turned into blue light spots and slowly disappeared. After the blue cave wall fell off, pitch-black round holes that were about 3 meters in diameter were revealed. Amidst the explosions, Yang Tian used his mental power to pull Huey Meow Meow forward slowly. When he saw many of the round holes, his eyes were filled with curiosity. As more holes were revealed, Yang Tian felt like he had entered a beehive. "What's inside?" Yang Tian looked at the holes and asked the strange program in his mind. The program answered, "You'll know once you go in." Since the program said so, it was clear that there was no danger inside. Therefore, Yangming pulled Huey Meow Meow and randomly chose a hole to enter. As soon as they arrived at the hole, a white insect suddenly popped its head out and opened its mouth to bite Yang Tian and Huey Meow Meow. The insect looked very peculiar. Its head was only slightly bigger than its body. When it closed its mouth, it was only a black gap. When it opened its mouth, it became a giant mouth that was at least 2 meters in diameter. Its mouth was filled with white liquid. Chapter 727. The worm opened its mouth, and was about to suck Yang Tian and Huey Meow Meow into its mouth. At that moment, Yang Tian took out the red saber 15 from his storage bracelet and slashed at the white worm. Whoosh whoosh, the saber chi let out a piercing sound and hit the worm's head. The sharp saber chi cut open the white worm's round head. White liquid gushed out from the head. If Yang Tian had not used his spiritual power to defend himself, the white liquid would have splashed on him and Huey Meow Meow. The white liquid looked like thick yogurt. When it landed on the wall, it immediately corroded a large hole in the wall made of an unknown material. The liquid in the worm's body was quite powerful. Fortunately, it was killed by Yang Tian in one strike. Its physical defense was not very strong. With the worm blocking the entrance, Yang Tian could not go in. He had to go to the cave next to it. Just as he was about to turn around, a purple light appeared in front of Yang Tian's eyes. The purple thing was inside half of the white worm's head. "What is that?" Yang Tian immediately went forward and used the saber in his hand to pick out the purple thing. It was a fist-sized, irregularly shaped thing that looked like an amethyst. There was some liquid secreted by the white worm on it. This thing emitted a faint purple halo, and there were no energy fluctuations. It looked just like an ordinary crystal. However, it was mostly covered by the white liquid from the worm's body. It was not corroded like the stones that made up the cave. Clearly, it was not an ordinary item. Yang Tian reached out his hand and grabbed it. A golden flame appeared in his hand. When the amethyst fell into his hand, there was a whoosh. The corrosive white liquid was burned away by the golden dragon flame. After the white liquid was removed, the amethyst looked even more beautiful. Huey Meow Meow's eyes widened when she saw it. Since it was not an ordinary item, Yang Tian naturally had to check it out. After burning away the white liquid on the surface, his consciousness entered it with his spiritual power. The amethyst did not look like anything from the outside. However, in the center of the amethyst, which was about 1/10 of the entire amethyst, was a purple liquid. When Yang Tian's spiritual power came into contact with the liquid, Yang Tian clearly felt that his consciousness suddenly became much stronger. The purple liquid could strengthen a human's consciousness. The finger-sized purple liquid was instantly absorbed by Yang Tian's spiritual power. Without the purple liquid, the amethyst crystal turned white and shattered into pieces. Yang Tian could not help but sigh again. The world is so big, nothing is too strange. After casually throwing away the pieces in his hand, Yang Tian suddenly thought of a problem. The talisman master must have wanted to use the purple liquid to prolong his life. Perhaps that was the reason why the talisman master wanted to work with Yang Tian and ask Yang Tian to help him destroy the astral illusory realm. However, Yang Tian did not agree. During the process, the talisman master realized that Yang Tian had the same rune program as he did. At that moment, the talisman master finally understood that Yang Tian did not need to work with him at all to successfully leave the astral illusory realm and even solve the secret of the natural rune formation. In the end, the talisman master had no choice but to sacrifice Lil Fu. When he thought of the above possibility, some of Yang Tian's doubts were finally resolved. Although the red ball destroyed the rune energy lines in this space and blew up the blue cave wall, it did not completely disappear. Instead, it was scattered in this space. The purple liquid was a good thing to nourish the brain. Naturally, the more the better. There should be more white worms in those caves. It was too easy to get rid of these worms. Yang Tian planned to kill as many white worms as possible and collect as many amethysts as possible before this place changed. Just as Yang Tian was about to take action, in a cave not far away, a worm that was even bigger than the white worm he had just killed stretched its head out and sucked in more than 10 red balls into its mouth. This worm was at least 5 meters in diameter. After sucking in more than 10 red balls, it immediately shrank back. It was not just this white worm. When other worms saw the red balls outside, they all stretched out their bodies. For a moment, Yang Tian's eyes were filled with flashing white shadows. Meow meow, do you know what kind of worm this is? There was a purple liquid in the amethyst I just obtained. Yang Tian asked the strange program in his mind. He wanted to know what kind of worm this white worm was. Although the strange program obtained some information about the natural rune formation, it did not know anything about this worm. Yang Tian asked Huey Meow Meow casually. Huey Meow Meow was a native of this world. She should know more about this world. Huey Meow Meow frowned and thought for a moment. Suddenly, her eyes lit up and she said, I know. This is a life worm. Life worm? Yes, the crystal in its head is a life crystal. The energy in the body of an exotic beast is called a life crystal because of this. Fortunately, I've read many ancient books when I'm free. Huey Meow Meow smiled proudly as soon as she finished speaking. Yang Tian looked like a child now. After spending some time with Yang Tian, Huey Meow Meow realized that she seemed to have become much younger. I see. Yang Tian nodded. At that moment, a worm that was as big as the one before popped its head out of a cave. It opened its mouth and wanted to suck the red balls into its mouth. Yang Tian seized the opportunity and slashed his sword. With a poof, the white worm's head was chopped off. The red ball that it had just sucked into its mouth exploded all of a sudden. With a bang, the worm's head exploded into pieces. Fortunately, the explosion of the red ball was not very powerful. Moreover, Yang Tian used his spiritual power to protect himself and Huey Meow Meow. The white liquid that was shooting everywhere did not touch them. The little blue dragon had sharp eyes. It leaped out from Yang Tian's shoulder and rushed towards one of the purple objects in a flash. In order not to be hurt by the white liquid, the little blue dragon ignited a golden dragon flame on its body after it left Yang Tian. All the white liquid and the remains of the white worm that came close to it were burned. After biting the purple crystal, the little blue dragon immediately returned to Yang Tian's shoulder. After Yang Tian took the purple crystal from the little blue dragon's mouth, he passed it to Huey Meow Meow and said, Try it. See if it can strengthen your consciousness. Huey Meow Meow was elated that Yang Tian thought of her. She immediately took the crystal and crushed it into a few pieces. She then put it to her lips and sucked the purple liquid into her mouth. Hui Meow Meow had an intoxicated expression on her face, as though she had drunk wine. Chapter 728. Huey Meow Meow's method of eating was obviously not as good as Yang Tian's method of directly absorbing it with his consciousness, as a portion of the purple liquid's energy was wasted by his physical body. After a short while, the blush on Huey Meow Meow's face faded and her aura became much more restrained. This was the benefit of having a stronger consciousness. The difference between consciousness and mind power was like the difference between a person's physical body and their physical strength. With a stronger consciousness, one would be able to use stronger mind power. At the same time, one would be able to control the energy in one's body more accurately. Huey Meow Meow, who had benefited from this, looked at Yang Tian affectionately and was extremely grateful. Actually, she had given herself to Yang Tian because Yang Tian was very capable. If she could keep Yang Tian in the Huey family would develop even faster. Secondly, Huey Meow Meow did not have a man she liked yet. She felt that Yang Tian was a good person. She did not care much about relationships between men and women, so she just let nature take its course. After all, she would have to find a man sooner or later to spend the rest of her life with. After interacting with Yang Tian, Huey Meow Meow felt that Yang Tian was becoming more and more mysterious. This aroused her intense curiosity and made her have a better impression of Yang Tian. Naturally, she developed some feelings for him. Huey Meow Meow used to be a very domineering woman. She would not even bother to look at a man who was not capable. After experiencing some incredible things together, Huey Meow Meow was completely convinced by Yang Tian. Otherwise, she would not have been so obedient in front of Yang Tian. Now, it was obvious from Huey Meow Meow's expression that she had given most of her heart to Yang Tian. Yang Tian looked at Huey Meow Meow's expression and smiled slightly. The greedy white worms quickly devoured the remaining red balls in the space. This red sphere seemed to be very helpful for their growth. After consuming the red sphere, the white worms' bodies grew at an extremely fast speed. The previous cave could no longer accommodate them. Thus, many worms crawled out of the cave. The insect's body was 3 meters thick and more than 10 meters long. It looked very bloated and had no legs on its abdomen, but there were 2 rows of black spots. This kind of insect was able to move freely in the cave, but he didn't expect it to be able to move freely in a space without any resistance. The insects crawled out of the cave not only because the cave could not accommodate their bodies, but also because after eating the red ball, their insatiable appetite was aroused. Soon, the situation of the big fish eating the small fish happened. One of them had a body that was 5 meters thick and 20 meters long. It swam a few rounds in the air like a snake. It opened its mouth and rushed toward a bug that was half its size. It bit the bug's head. Then, the big bug's body wriggled. In less than a minute, the bug was swallowed into its stomach. After swallowing a small worm, the skin on the surface of the big worm's body fell off piece by piece, revealing an even fairer and more tender body. After shedding its skin, dumb insect's body quickly swelled up and became even bigger. This situation continued to play out in this endless space. Perhaps Yang Tian and the others were too small, and they were covered by Yang Tian's mental power. Their auras were not released, so the hungry worms did not attack them. After watching for a while, Yang Tian felt that he could not wait any longer. If he waited any longer, the worms would become bigger and harder to kill. Moreover, when the worms grew to a certain size, there would definitely be changes in this space. It was better to take advantage of this time to collect more purple crystals. Next, Yang Tian killed one worm with each slash. After killing the worms, he immediately split open their heads and took out the purple crystals inside. He kept them in his storage bracelet. Huey Meow Meow also separated from Yang Tian. The long whip in her hand changed a lot. It could be used as a rope or a spear. The speed at which she killed the worms was not much slower than Yang Tian. The fastest was the little blue dragon. The little blue dragon transformed into a giant dragon that was dozens of meters long. Its body was burning with golden dragon flames, and it could kill a white worm with one slap. It used its dragon whiskers to take out the purple crystals in the worms' heads and threw them to Yang Tian. In less than half an hour, there were more than 120 purple crystals in Yang Tian's storage bracelet. These crystals came in different sizes. The smallest was the size of a fist, while the largest was the size of a soccer ball. This was because the bigger the worm was, the bigger the crystals in its head would be. After discovering this problem, Yang Tian, the little blue dragon, and Huey Meow Meow picked the bigger worms to kill. Yang Tian killed happily and was extremely excited. On the other hand, the Talisman Master's expression became serious. He was waiting for the 3 Palace Masters to fall into his trap. He did not expect that he would be waiting for a green turtle. After the green turtle entered the space illusion, it was not afraid of the red dots at all. Not only that, the green turtle's shell lit up with green light. The red dots around it were attracted by the green light and entered the turtle's shell. Those tiny red dots were, in fact, extremely small and special insects. These worms were called locusts. The Dead Sea in the Star Sea was formed by a large number of locusts and red floating substances. Normally, the locusts were in a dormant state. When they encountered other life forms or food that could fill their stomachs, they would wake up. In the world of life, there was always something that could counter something else. The beasts that could survive in the Star Sea were naturally not afraid of the locusts. Instead, they could eat the locusts to provide energy for themselves. The green light emitted by the green turtle's shell was extremely attractive to the locusts. Countless locusts woke up and disappeared into the green light like moths to a flame. If one got close to the green turtle at this time, one would find that part of the patterns on its shell lit up with green light, forming a special talisman array. This was an ability that the beasts in the Star Sea had evolved. They were not as smart as humans. Through generations of evolution, the patterns on the turtle's shell had grown a talisman array with special functions. The growth rate of divine beasts was astonishing. After the green turtle converted the locusts into its own energy through its shell, its body began to grow bigger and the speed at which it cleaned the locusts became faster and faster. In this way, it would not take long for the locusts to be completely devoured. The Talisman Master knew that the Dead Sea was actually not that big. The locusts were not endless. If he did not change this situation quickly, his plan would change again. Without the Talisman program, the Talisman Master also lost his most powerful weapon. His control over the things around him weakened a lot. Above the crack, the 3 Palace Masters saw the glowing red dots disappear where the green turtle passed. They all laughed. It seemed that the door was about to open. To them, this was the best thing. Otherwise, they would have to force their way in. Just as they were rejoicing, the space around the green turtle fluctuated. In the blink of an eye, the green turtle disappeared. "Let's go!" Seeing this, the Palace Master of the Everlasting Temple, Quang Xing, shouted coldly. He moved and turned into a black light. Before the spatial fluctuation disappeared, he entered the place where the green turtle disappeared. The other 2 Palace Masters did the same. Seeing this, the Talisman Master, who had his eyes closed, sneered. He had expected this to happen. He knew that the 3 Palace Masters would not let go of this opportunity. Since everyone had come in, there was no need for the Dead Sea illusion to exist. He might as well open the door and let more people in. Thinking of this, the Talisman Master opened his eyes. His lips trembled as he uttered a few complicated syllables. During this process, the starry sky in the crack suddenly rippled. Like wind blowing on the surface of the water, countless red star-like locusts disappeared. What was left was an endless void. Chapter 729. It's gone, there seems to be no danger. What's going on? Who dares to go down and try? After the ash bugs disappeared, it was completely dark under the crevice. Some cultivators carefully went to the edge of the crack and looked down. They started to discuss. There were many disciples in the 3 temples, but they had no excuse to stop other cultivators from getting close. The reason why the 3 temples did this was not to preserve the power of the cultivators in this world, but because they knew some secrets and did not want to be killed by the Rune Master. Even though they knew that there was no danger, none of the cultivators dared to go down first. Little turtle! At this moment, Hui Chan yelled and jumped into the darkness. Hui Chan was young, but she was not a reckless person. She went down because she was summoned by the little green turtle. Hui Chan's relationship with the little green turtle was similar to Yang Tian's relationship with the little blue dragon. The little blue dragon would naturally share its benefits with Yang Tian, and the little green turtle was the same. When the Rune Master released the restriction of this level, Hui Chan entered the darkness as if she had passed through a black mirror. Then, colorful light appeared around her. It was so bright that she could not open her eyes. Hui Chan could not help but close her eyes. Her body quickly fell. Suddenly, something caught her. At the same time, the light around her dimmed. Hui Chan slowly opened her eyes. What appeared in Hui Chan's eyes was light blue. The blue light came from the crystal-like blue tree root. This space was similar to the astral ocean illusion that Yang Tian was in. Those blue roots were also the energy lines of natural rune arrays. Hui Miao was on the little green turtle's back. Compared to before, the little green turtle was much bigger. It could fit 5 people on its back. What is this place? Hui Chan was shocked at the sight around her. The little green turtle extended its head and looked at Hui Chan. It did not know how to bark. It used its eyes to convey its thoughts. Hui Chan was worried at first, but when she saw the look in the little green turtle's eyes, she relaxed. After turning its head, the little green turtle moved its 4 legs and moved forward rapidly. Just like the little blue dragon, the little green turtle was very sensitive to energy. It carried Hui and Chan as it weaved through the blue energy lines. It would occasionally turn left and then right. After about 10 minutes, the little green turtle finally stopped. What appeared in Hui Chan's eyes was a 2-meter-wide ball of light that was emitting intense blue light. This blue ball of light was attached to a thick rune energy thread. It looked like a fruit growing from a tree root. Hui and Chan did not know that these things that looked like tree roots were actually the energy lines of natural rune arrays. Did they think that they were real tree roots? He couldn't help but ask, "What fruit is this?" Little Green Tortoise didn't know either, but its intuition told it that it must be something good. Little Green Tortoise stopped for a moment from dozens of meters away, and then slowly approached the blue ball of light. As it got closer, the blue ball of light became clearer in Hui Chan's eyes. When it was about 10 meters away from the blue ball of light, she could see clearly that there was some liquid flowing in the blue ball of light. At this moment, the little green turtle stopped and turned its head to look at Hui Chan. "All right. You have to be careful." Hui Chan understood what the little green turtle was thinking and nodded. Then she left the little green turtle's back. After turning its head, the little green turtle moved its 4 legs and approached the blue ball of light at an extremely fast speed. Humans were always afraid of the unknown. The cultivators stopped at the edge of the crevice. Even though Hui Chan was the first to go down after a few minutes, no one dared to go down. They couldn't just wait here, right? Since the 3 temple lords of the temple had gone down, there must be something good down there. Hui family was the first to lose their patience. Family head Hui Baixing had already arrived. After Hui Chan went down, he became anxious. This kind of thing could only be done by the Grim Hunting Department. After exchanging glances with the 3 elders, the 3 elders gave the order, and 3 members of the Grim Hunting Department came to the edge of the crevice and jumped down. Even if they were certain to die, they could only follow the order. Otherwise, they would die even more miserably, and their families in the underground city would be implicated. These 3 Suicide Squad members carried talisman formations that could transmit information. As long as they didn't die after going down, they could send the situation back. About 3 minutes later, the 3 elders raised their wrists and nodded at Hui Baixing. This meant that the people down there were still alive. In fact, before the arrival of the 3 palace masters, some of the clans had already done so. At that time, it was still the real Dead Sea. Of course, going down meant death. Since there was no danger, what was the point of waiting here? After Hui Baixing gave the order, the remaining members of the Grim Hunting Department quickly rushed into the black veil below. With someone taking the lead, the cultivators standing at the edge of the crevice, those who were brave and confident in their abilities, all jumped down. Even cultivators had a herd mentality. Seeing that someone was going down, they naturally didn't want to be left behind. Therefore, the cultivators gathered at the edge of the crevice were like dumplings that were being dropped into the black veil below. At this time, only the people from the 3 temples remained calm. "Let's go." In the crowd, a supervisor from the Everlasting Temple suddenly waved his hand. That was because he had received the order from the Temple Lord. When the people from the 3 temples moved, the crowd moved even faster. "Ha ha ha! Come! Everyone, come!" Seeing the cultivators rushing over, the glyph master stood up excitedly and waved his hands as he laughed. He looked like a maniac. The glyph master's goal was to attract even more cultivators. Why? Because the more people there were, the more destructive the natural talisman array would be. If not for Yang Tian's arrival, the glyph master would have enough time to use his little talisman to tamper with the natural talisman array to achieve his goal. Then Yang Tian appeared. He wanted to use Yang Tian, but Yang Tian didn't cooperate. Yen #at. After a burst of crazy laughter, the glyph master quickly calmed down. Then, he looked up at the black sphere above his head and uttered a few strange syllables. Then, something strange happened. From the bottom of the black sphere, a root system suddenly grew out. It rapidly descended and soon pierced into the ground. On top of the black sphere, another spore grew out. In less than 3 minutes, a branch grew out and black leaves grew out. As it turned out, the black sphere was a seed. Chapter 730. When the little green turtle touched the blue ball of light, it looked at it. Suddenly, 2 horns grew out from its head and pressed against the blue ball. Bam! There was a clear sound as the outer shell of the blue ball shattered. Several blue liquid pillars poured out from the crack. The temperature of the blue liquid was extremely low. As soon as it appeared, the temperature of the surroundings quickly dropped. When normal beasts encountered this kind of low-temperature liquid, they would be frozen and turned into a corpse if they even got close to it, let alone touch it. The little green turtle was not a normal beast. It opened its mouth and sucked the blue liquid into its mouth. Not a single drop was wasted. To the little green turtle, the blue liquid was a great supplement. It was the same as the little blue dragon. When it was growing, it needed a large amount of energy. After sucking the blue liquid, the little green turtle turned around and looked at Hui Chanchan, who was not far away. Hui Chanchan was so cold that her teeth were chattering and her face was pale. The distance between her and the blue ball of light was just right. If she was any closer, she would be frostbitten. When she saw the little green turtle's eyes, Hui Chanchan took out a black whip from her storage bracelet. She flicked it and the whip wrapped around a rune energy line that looked like a tree root. She then pulled and used the force to fly toward the little green turtle. The little green turtle turned around and bit on the outer shell of a blue ball. It began to chew on it and there was a crunching sound. Since the little green turtle had gotten something good, it would not forget about Hui Chanchan. Other than the extremely cold blue liquid, there was also a small blue ball the size of a soccer ball inside the blue ball. Woo-woo! When Hui Chanchan was next to it, the little green turtle turned around and rubbed its head against Hui Chanchan's arm as it let out a woo-woo sound. Little turtle, you can talk. That's great. Hui-chan, who was connected to the little green turtle, immediately understood the little green turtle's language. She hugged the little green turtle's head and cried out happily. The little green turtle did not know how to make a sound. Normally, it would communicate with its eyes. Of course, this way of communicating was not as easy to understand as the language itself, and the information was not as comprehensive. Now, the little green turtle could finally speak. The little green turtle told Hui-chan that it could speak now because it had absorbed enough energy and leveled up, becoming a one-star beast in the galaxy. One-star beast? Hui-chan asked curiously. The little green turtle also told Hui-chan that the Sea of Stars was not empty. Instead, there were countless hidden dark realms. The environment of these dark realms was actually similar to the environment of this continent. It was just that it was much smaller. The strange beasts and other creatures in the Sea of Stars lived in the dark realm. They wouldn't come out easily, unless some creatures disturbed the dark realm. Among the strange beasts living in the Sea of Stars, the lowest level strange beasts were newborn beasts without realms. After they grew up, they would become one-star beasts, then two-star beasts, three-star beasts, four-star beasts, and the highest would be nine-star beasts. The Sea of Stars was a vast and mysterious world. This continent had existed for countless years. Any cultivator who went in to explore never returned. Therefore, they knew nothing about the situation in the Sea of Stars. It was Hui-chan's first time hearing that the strange beasts in the Sea of Stars were divided into stars. This method of classification was obviously different from this world. Now that the little green turtle could speak, many of Hui-chan's questions could finally be answered. Seeing Hui-chan's eyes, the little green turtle knew that she had many questions for it. After it finished explaining the ranks of the strange beasts in the Sea of Stars, it let out a woo-woo sound and told Hui-chan to absorb the blue ball into her body. Hui-chan had not reached the illusion realm yet, so she could not do this. However, the little green turtle had a way. It was going to teach Hui-chan a new cultivation method. Other cultivators did not have the little green turtle. Naturally, they were not as lucky as Hui-chan to be sent to this special space by the little green turtle. One had to know that the black screen had actually become a teleportation space. Any cultivator who entered would be randomly sent to various places in the natural formation array. Even the three palace lords who had acted at the same time were sent to different places. Divine beasts had the ability to seek luck and avoid danger. Hui-chan had the help of the little green turtle. Not only would she not be in danger, she would also gain benefit. However, to other cultivators, what they faced was extremely dangerous. Some of them encountered the Dead Sea and died immediately upon entering. They were the unluckiest ones. Some other cultivators were trapped in illusions. They were tortured by the illusions and could not find a way out in a short time. They could only fight against the harsh environment. The luckier ones were in the vast void. It was silent all around them. They could not see the end. Even so, they were not in danger for now. They were just mentally tortured. Some other cultivators were sent to special spaces. For example, the space where Yang Tian, Hui-chan, and Hui-chan were in now. Although it was dangerous, they could gain some benefits. The natural formation array became very chaotic after absorbing so many cultivators. This was the result that the Talisman Master wanted. The black tree grew at an extremely fast speed. Soon, it tore through the surrounding space. The surrounding scene turned into a gray void. The ground beneath his feet disappeared. In Talisman Lord's eyes, there was only the massive black tree trunk. Seeing that the black tree was almost fully grown, the Talisman Master folded his hands and moved quickly. He turned into a series of afterimages. Circles of rune energy were released from his hands. At the same time, he uttered many mysterious syllables. Dense runes suddenly appeared on the black tree trunk. They flew around the black tree trunk a few times. Then, they suddenly condensed and rushed into the Talisman Master's body. The Talisman Master's body expanded, as if he was being blown. He became round and round. Sounds of threads came from the Talisman Master's mouth. At this time, the Talisman Master's face was distorted. He was in great pain. At this time, more runes appeared on the black tree trunk and entered the Talisman Master's body. The Talisman Master's body gradually turned black. During this process, the black tree grew very quickly. In less than 5 minutes, it was at least 10 times thicker. Ah! Finally, the Talisman Master could no longer endure the pain and let out a scream. Shortly after, his body shrunk, turning into a black dot and entering the black tree trunk. Suddenly, mysterious red lines lit up on the tree trunk and disappeared in a flash. The Talisman Master had finally completed his second-last step. Only one step was left. Then, not only would he have an unlimited lifespan, he would also be able to dominate this world. Yang Tian, Hui Miao Miao, and the little blue dragon were happily killing the insects. Suddenly, the scene around them changed. It turned black. Looking into the distance, they could see dark red lines that looked like the veins of a leaf. At this time, the space that Yang Tian and the others were in had been sucked into a leaf by the black tree. Yang Tian and the others' good days had come to an end. Chapter 731. After being sucked into the space of the leaf, the pressure in the entire space increased by at least 10 times. The sudden change made Yang Tian so uncomfortable that he wanted to vomit blood. Even Yang Tian was uncomfortable, let alone Hui Miao Miao. Her face suddenly turned pale. Yang Tian immediately used his mental power to protect Hui Miao Miao. To the little blue dragon, the change in the environment did not affect it at all. Instead, it helped it kill the white worms faster. Yang Tian and the rest were uncomfortable, but the white worms in the space were also affected. The small worms were crushed by the strong pressure in the space. This benefited Yang Tian and the rest. They did not have to kill the worms anymore to obtain a large amount of purple crystals. We are now trapped in a special space formed by runes. The strange program that had been silent for a long time suddenly spoke. Then, a diagram appeared in Yang Tian's mind. It was a huge leaf. Its shape looked no different from an ordinary leaf, and the space that Yang Tian and the rest occupied within the leaf was just a small dot. A large number of white worms were killed, but the bigger ones survived. Hui Miao Miao finally recovered after being protected by Yang Tian's mental power. Yang Tian tried to withdraw his mental power slowly, and Hui Miao Miao finally adapted. Sorry for the trouble. Hui Miao Miao looked at Yang Tian and said embarrassedly. Ever since she left the Hui family with Yang Tian, along the way. Thinking about it, Hui Miao Miao felt that she did not help Yang Tian much. Instead, she needed Yang Tian to take care of her. Yang Tian waved his hand. Don't say that. Everyone has their strength. As long as there is a suitable opportunity, they will be used. Hui Miao Miao nodded. Xiao Long come back when he turned around and saw the little blue dragon rushing towards a white giant worm in the distance. Yang Tian hurriedly stopped it and called it back. The little blue dragon flew back and looked at Yang Tian in confusion. Yang Tian smiled and said, If we want to leave this place, we have to rely on these insects. The reason he stopped the little blue dragon from hunting those white worms was because the strange program reminded Yang Tian of something. To Yang Tian and the others, these worms were not very powerful. However, just like what Yang Tian had said to Hui Miao Miao, they would be very useful under special circumstances. After the black tree's leaves enveloped the space, Yang Tian realized that the space they were in was not as big as he had imagined. The number of white worms that appeared was also not that many. From the beginning until now, the 2 humans and 1 dragon had killed at least 1/5 of the white worms. Among them, the largest worm was their first target. Without the strange program's reminder, Yang Tian and the others could have killed all the worms. This was exactly what the talisman master wanted. Without the threat of the little blue dragon, the white worms quickly swam in all directions. In the blink of an eye, they became a small white dot. Yang Tian brought Huey Meow Meow and sat on the little blue dragon's back. The little blue dragon swung its tail and chased after one of the white worms. The white worm's speed was obviously not as fast as the little blue dragon. It quickly caught up with the giant white worm. Sensing the aura behind it, the bug couldn't help but panic and immediately increased its speed. Yang Tian noticed something and immediately asked the little blue dragon to slow down. After increasing the distance, the giant white worm finally stopped panicking. This type of worm did not have self-awareness. All of its actions were based on instinct. Soon, it arrived at the edge of the leaf. It opened its mouth and sucked on the invisible space wall. Waves of invisible rune energy waves were transmitted. Since they had found the edge of this space, with the help of the strange program, it should not be difficult to get out, right? When Yang Tian had this thought, the strange program told him that there was no need to go through so much trouble. The strange program kept him in suspense. Soon, Yang Tian knew the answer. This was very similar to his guess. Worms eating leaves was an extremely normal thing in the natural world. However, it was strange for a white worm to eat this kind of black leaf. The white worm sucked on the space wall inside the leaf. Soon, it bit a big hole in the space wall. It was unknown how it did it. Once the space wall was broken, light blue light shone in from the outside. Soon, the giant white worm gnawed out a hole that was big enough for its body to pass through. It wriggled its body and crawled out. The little blue dragon immediately seized this opportunity and flew out of the hole. Once he left the space of the leaf, Yang Tian could not help but open his eyes wide when he saw the surrounding situation. This was because in his eyes was an incomparably huge black tree. It looked similar to a banyan tree, except that it was pitch black. Perhaps it was because of the change in space, but once he left the space of the leaf he was on immediately became countless times smaller. Therefore, Yang Tian could see the whole thing. Yang Tian's current position was below the crown of the giant black tree. Looking down along the huge trunk, he could not see the roots of the giant black village. Seeing this giant tree, Yang Tian could not help but think of the world tree. In his storage bracelet, there was still a seed of the world tree. After listening to Chu Yen and Gu Ying's description, Yang Tian's impression of the world tree was that it was a giant tree full of vitality. It was beautiful and uplifting. However, this giant black tree gave him the feeling of a tree that grew out of a grave at night. It had a sinister and terrifying aura. The tree of death. These 4 words suddenly appeared in Yang Tian's mind. After glancing at the entire giant tree, Yang Tian turned his attention to the black leaf he had just left. Due to the change in space, his vision was different. The black tree from before had become smaller, and so had the giant white worms. The giant white worm that had bitten through the space of the leaf was like an ordinary silkworm in his eyes. This fellow was lying on the black leaf that was hundreds or thousands of times larger than its body, constantly gnawing on it. It was not just this white worm. Soon, more white worms had bitten through the space of the leaf and crawled out, joining the ranks of those who were gnawing on the black leaf. These fellows did not seem to know when to stop gnawing. Soon, a hole was gnawed out of the black leaf, and more white worms crawled out. With the black leaf as food, they stopped eating each other. At this moment, Yang Tian finally understood why these fellows were eating each other. That was to become stronger. Only when they were strong to a certain extent would they be able to break through the space of the leaf. Otherwise, their bodies would be crushed by the pressure of the space of the leaf. Thousands of white worms appeared and quickly gnawed away at the giant black leaf, leaving only the black veins. Chapter 732. After eating a leaf, many white insects crawled along the branches to other leaves and quickly dispersed. Seeing these insects, Yang Tian suddenly understood the Talisman Lord's plan. If Yang Tian had killed all these insects for the purple crystals, the black tree wouldn't have been destroyed. Yang Tian didn't stop the white insects from eating the black leaf. Soon, another leaf was bitten open. The space of this leaf also contained a space that imprisoned some cultivators. Once the space of the leaf was broken, hundreds of cultivators gained freedom and flew out. It was unknown what happened in the space of the leaf, but the moment these cultivators came out, they began to kill each other. In the blink of an eye, dozens of people were killed or injured. Yang Tian didn't want to meddle in other people's business, but soon someone came to find him. The range of the hundreds of cultivators became wider and wider. One of them was sent flying by a punch from another. When he stopped, he looked up and saw Yang Tian. He opened his mouth and roared, charging at Yang Tian and Huey Meow Meow. This was an illusion realm cultivator. His eyes were blood red, as if he had gone crazy. Yang Tian didn't move. The little blue dragon jumped up from his shoulder and opened its mouth, spewing golden dragon flames at the charging person. The dragon flames wrapped around this person and burned him into black powder in the blink of an eye. What happened next shocked Yang Tian. After this person died, a light blue energy with life aura rushed out of the golden dragon flames and flew towards the black tree, entering the trunk. The little blue dragon was already stronger than cultivators of the same realm. Moreover, it was one realm higher. Killing this person was too easy. This was clearly a strand of consciousness left behind after a cultivator died. It was the so-called soul. This was the first time Yang Tian saw a soul. Because it was close, this person's soul could be seen by Yang Tian. Then, the souls of those who died before must have been absorbed by the black tree. Suddenly, Yang Tian thought of a possibility and could not help but be shocked. This black tree seemed to need to absorb people's souls. These hundreds of cultivators had blood-red eyes and crazy expressions. Clearly, they were confused by the space of the black tree's leaves. The black tree, or rather, the Talisman Lord's goal was to make them kill each other. Another leaf was bitten by the white insects and hundreds of cultivators appeared. The situation was the same as before. Yang Tian hurriedly pulled Huey Meow Meow back. At this time, he didn't want to fight with these people. He didn't want to become the Talisman Lord's accomplice. After moving some distance away from the giant black tree, the black tree became smaller, and they could now see its full appearance. This space was truly wondrous. Yang Tian only felt that he had retreated a few hundred meters, but it felt as though he had traversed several dozen kilometers. There were simply too many leaves on the giant black tree. Almost every leaf had its own unique space. Every time the white bug bit through a black leaf, a group of cultivators would rush out, as well as a large number of mutated beasts. Be it cultivators or mutated beasts, they were all crazy. Once they appeared, they started killing each other. Yang Tian focused his eyes and saw that the mutated beasts' souls would also fly out and enter the black tree. During this process, Yang Tian realized that the stronger the cultivator or mutated beast, the more blue and powerful the soul energy that flew out after death. Those people, they seemed to be from the 3 temples. Huey Meow Meow pointed at them and said in surprise when another black leaf broke open and a group of people rushed out. The black-robed disciples of the Everlasting Temple, the blue-robed disciples of the Cosmic Temple, and the white-robed disciples of the Sky Domain Temple. There were close to 1,000 people in total. Even the sects were killing each other. Ever since he came underground, Yang Tian had not gone out. However, he could guess that something must have happened on the surface that attracted a large number of cultivators here. Let's go. Seeing that more and more people and mutated beasts came out, Yang Tian pulled Huey Meow Meow and quickly retreated. Yang Tian could only hide in this situation. If he went forward, he would be in trouble if he was entangled by those cultivators and mutated beasts who had lost their minds. After moving further away, the black tree became smaller in Yang Tian's eyes. Looking at the black tree with their current vision, it was like looking at a potted plant. The cultivators and mutated beasts that came out of the black leaves were moving points. This vision made Yang Tian feel like he was in control, but Yang Tian knew that it was just an illusion. To test it, Yang Tian gathered a stream of mind energy and rushed toward the black tree. The mental energy naturally contained a hint of Yang Tian's conception. Sure enough, as he expected, the seemingly small tree grew at an extremely fast speed when his mental energy moved forward. The space around it also spread infinitely. Yang Tian felt like his body was shrinking at an extremely fast speed. When Yang Tian's mental energy was within a certain range from the black tree, the wisp of consciousness attached to the mental energy was attracted by a powerful attraction force from the black tree, and it rushed toward the tree uncontrollably. Normally, one's consciousness must be carried by energy to leave one's body. For example, Yang Tian would use his mental energy to carry a wisp of consciousness whenever he wanted to inspect an item. Without his mental energy, he could not have released his consciousness, or it would have dispersed as soon as it left his body. In this environment, after the wisp of consciousness left the mental energy, it did not disperse. Instead, it was extremely condensed. Yang Tian originally wanted to cut off the connection with the wisp of consciousness, but he did not do so out of curiosity. He really wanted to know what would happen after his consciousness entered the giant black tree. Curiosity killed the cat, and of course, it could also kill people. Following that, Yang Tian almost fell for it. When the wisp of consciousness was about to approach the trunk of the black tree, a powerful attraction force suddenly added to Yang Tian's body, trying to pull his consciousness out of his body. Yang Tian's brain rumbled. The energy in his body boiled, and the origin realm in his body began to shake. Yang Tian could not help but be shocked. He quickly cut off the connection with the wisp of consciousness. Fortunately, Yang Tian did it in time. As soon as he cut off the connection with the wisp of consciousness, the powerful attraction force of the black tree disappeared. Yang Tian was terrified and could not help but let out a long breath. At this moment, his face was pale, and his body, which had not sweated for a long time, was covered in sweat. "What's wrong?" Huey Meow Meow asked with concern when she saw Yang Tian's strange behavior. Yang Tian smiled bitterly. "I was almost done for just now." Chapter 733. This black tree is really too terrifying. It can suck people's souls. After Yang Tian said that, Huey Meow Meow was also frightened. Yang Tian nodded. Consciousness, or soul, controlled the energy in the body. Just now, the shock to the soul had caused the energy in the body to go into a mess. It took a while for the energy to calm down. After that, Yang Tian did not say anything else. He observed the changes in front of him as he adjusted his breath. The space of the black leaves did not have to be bitten by the white worms for the people inside to come out. Cultivators with great power could break open the space and escape. Slap! Suddenly, a clear sound came from the black tree. It was a black leaf that exploded and dozens of people came out from it. When they came out from the chaotic battle, Yang Tian saw that one of them was Ku Man, the supervisor of the Everlasting Temple. Coincidentally, Ku Man was leading a group of people toward Yang Tian's direction. He only stopped when he saw Yang Tian. When he saw Yang Tian, Ku Man's eyes were no longer filled with admiration. Instead, they were filled with hatred. She already knew Yang Tian's real identity. Other than Ku Man, Yang Tian also knew Black Talisman Lord. When he saw Black Talisman Lord, Yang Tian could not help but frown. When he saw the hatred in Ku Man's eyes, Yang Tian could not help but think that Black Talisman Lord must have told Ku Man about his real identity. Ku Man only glanced at Yang Tian before he turned around and looked at the black tree. No one knew what was going on. If they were to fight, no one knew what would happen. Slap, slap, slap. In the following period of time, many black leaves exploded, and groups of cultivators flew out from within. It seemed that not everyone would encounter a space that could confuse people's minds. They were all smart people. As long as they were not crazy, they would control themselves when they came out. Only a small number of them would go and stop their friends or family members when they saw them going crazy. Their actions soon made everyone realize one thing. That was, once the crazed people were lured away from the giant black tree, they would immediately wake up. Yang Tian didn't know before, but after understanding that this was a way to save people, he immediately acted. Although those cultivators had nothing to do with him, he couldn't just watch them die for nothing, could he? Yang Tian, Huey Meow Meow, and the little blue dragon flew back and forth. In less than 10 minutes, they had saved more than 100 people. Ku-Man, Black Talisman Lord and the others had been standing not far away, quietly watching. Compared to Yang Tian, these people had long cultivated to the realm of indifference and ruthlessness. Of course, it was unknown whether Yang Tian was being kind or not. Among the cultivators, there were also many who rescued those who had fallen into madness. Boom! Suddenly, there was a loud noise. A large hole suddenly exploded in the trunk of the black tree, and a black-robed young man flew out in a sorry state. Then, a white-robed young man and a blue-robed young man flew out of the tree hole. Among the three, the black-robed young man was naturally Wuji Temple's Kuang Xing, the blue-robed young man was Cosmic Temple's Jimi, and the white-robed young man was Sky Domain Temple's Yu Gui. When the 3 temple masters appeared, the disciples of the 3 temples all bowed and greeted them. When Huey Meow Meow saw the 3 of them, she immediately introduced them to Yang Tian. The one with silver hair and a black triangular mark on his forehead is Wuji Temple's Kuang Xing. After Huey Meow Meow finished, she whispered to Yang Tian that Cosmic Temple's Jimi was neither male nor female. When he was happy, he would turn into a woman. When he was angry, or when he was ready to fight, he would turn into a man. Intersex? Hearing Huey Meow Meow's words, Yang Tian was a little curious and looked at the blue-robed young man. Powerful cultivators were very sensitive to the energy of the outside world. When Yang Tian looked at him with bad intentions, Jimi felt it and turned his head to look at Yang Tian. Unintentionally, their eyes met. Jimi was the supreme temple master of Cosmic Temple, and very few people dared to look him in the eye. Yang Tian did not expect that Jimi would suddenly turn her head. He wanted to withdraw his gaze, but suddenly, pride rose in his heart and he did not avoid her gaze. Seeing that it was a child with the eyes of an adult, Jimi could not help but smile. Just as Huey Meow Meow said, this smile turned from a man to a woman, and he looked very beautiful. Yang Tian felt a chill in his heart, but he still smiled at Jimi. Jimi quickly looked away and turned his head to look at the black tree, as if nothing had happened. Dongfang Bubi, a person's name, suddenly appeared in Yang Tian's heart. Then, Yang Tian kept looking at Jimi unconsciously. Although the universe was big, it was the first time he saw such a strange person. He thought to himself, changing between a man and a woman, I wonder if other than the face, the other organs on the body can change as well. Thinking of this, Yang Tian felt goosebumps all over his body. He quickly calmed himself down and looked at the black village. At this moment, there were still a large number of cultivators fighting madly around the black tree. The speed at which the black tree leaves were being torn apart increased, and more cultivators appeared. There were many kind-hearted cultivators like Yang Tian. He was busy saving people, but he could only save a small number of them. After the 3 temple masters appeared, a few of their subordinates came forward and reported the situation. Then, the disciples of the temple did not make a move. As more and more cultivators died, the black tree absorbed enough souls and finally started to change. Among the leaves, white flower buds appeared. They looked like budding lotus flowers. Flowers appeared one after another on the branches of the black tree. Its snow-white color looked very white under the contrast of the black leaf. One of the flowers quickly opened its petals. As it opened, dense white light spots spread out in all directions. From afar, it looked like shining stars. When the white petals fully opened, one could see a sapphire-blue oval crystal in the center of the flower. The blue crystal emitted a blue halo. It was very beautiful. At this moment, the 3 temple masters still did not move. The white flowers bloomed one after another, revealing more and more blue crystals. In the eyes of the crowd, the black tree was getting more and more beautiful. However, deep in their hearts, a strong sense of fear grew. When all the flowers on the black tree bloomed, the black tree's leaves began to disappear. During this process, waves of spatial energy fluctuations were transmitted. It was spatial annihilation. At this moment, if they did not come out of the space of the leaves, they would die. Chapter 734. In the natural world, when a tree bloomed, it would usually bear fruit. It was the same for this black tree. When the black leaves disappeared, the blue crystals in the middle of the white flowers cracked, and round, blue fruits grew out. Then, the white petals fell, and the blue fruits grew bigger and bigger. Everyone stared at the terrifying black tree without blinking. As the blue fruits grew bigger and bigger, a heart-palpitating aura appeared in the entire space. The blue fruits grew bigger and bigger. In less than half an hour, the entire black tree was dyed blue. At this moment, Wuji Temple's Kuang Xing waved his hand forward. There were at least a few 100,000 disciples of the 3 temples who survived. Kuang Xing waved his hand and all of them rushed towards the giant tree. It was obvious that their target was the blue fruit. Since the people of the 3 temples moved, the other cultivators naturally didn't want to fall behind. They all rushed towards the giant black tree. Yang Tian originally wanted to fly closer to take a look, but when he noticed that the 3 hall masters did not move, the same went for the hall masters. He stopped himself from doing so. As the blue fruits grew bigger, the oppressive feeling in the space grew stronger. He had to be careful no matter what he did. "Sister," suddenly, a young girl's clear voice sounded. This voice was very familiar to Yang Tian. "Chan Chan." Then, Yang Tian heard Hui Yi Miao Miao's exclamation. Yang Tian turned around. Indeed, it was Hui Gu Chan Chan. Hui Yi Chan Chan sat on the back of a giant green turtle. She wore a blue dress and was waving at Hui Yi Miao Miao. The little green turtle carried Hui Yi Chan Chan and quickly flew in front of Yang Tian and the rest. The little green turtle was a divine beast. It was very arrogant in front of other mutated beasts. However, under the cold gaze of the little blue dragon, it slowly shrank its head back. It seemed a little timid. "Xiao Long, don't bully little turtle." Hui Yi Chan Chan looked at the little blue dragon and said unhappily. Then she looked at Yang Tian and took 2 steps forward. She arrived in front of Yang Tian and giggled. "Brother Yang Tian, how did you become like this?" Hui Yi Chan Chan's thoughts were pure. The moment she saw Yang Tian, she immediately recognized him. It's a long story." Yang Tian didn't know how to answer. "I knew you wouldn't die." Hui Chan Chan reached out her hand and grabbed Yang Tian's cheek, shaking it. "Chan Chan, where are Patriarch and the others?" When Hui Miao Miao saw the bitter smile on Yang Tian's face, Hui Miao Miao suddenly spoke up to help Yang Tian out of his predicament. Hui Yi was a young girl, and when she saw how cute Yang Tian was, she couldn't help but tease Yang Tian. Hearing her elder sister ask her elder brother, she withdrew her hand and smiled at her elder sister. "Don't worry. They're fine." As they spoke, the cultivators had already neared the blue fruit. Many people anxiously followed behind the disciples of the temples, thinking that these blue fruits were good things. Unexpectedly, after the people of the 3 temples got close to these blue fruits, they began to attack them with all their might. It seemed that the people of the sacred hall wanted to destroy these blue fruit. However, when their attacks landed on these blue fruits, it was as if they had hit a soft wall. The energy of their attacks was actually absorbed. Something even stranger happened. After a period of time, the blue fruits that were attacked started to change color. They became redder and soon stopped growing. From where Yang Tian and the others were standing, the fruits of the black tree were very small. However, when they got closer, they realized that each fruit had a diameter of tens of meters. They were really huge fruit. What are the people of the sacred hall doing? Yang Tian muttered to himself. If it was a simple rune problem, the strange program could help him solve it. However, the huge tree in front of him and the blue fruits on it confused Yang Tian. They want to accelerate the ripening of the fruit. As soon as Yang Tian finished speaking, Hui Yi Chanchan spoke up. Yang Tian looked at Hui Yi Chanchan in surprise. How do you know? Hui Yi Chanchan said, in a secret chamber of the Starry Sky Sacred Hall, there are murals of this tree. After she finished speaking, she saw Yang Tian's puzzled expression. Hui Yi Chanchan continued, this is a secret of the 3 sacred halls. If not for the little green turtle, I wouldn't have come into contact with these secrets. This black tree is called the Tree of Destruction. It is also known as the Tree of Death. The Tree of Death. Yang Tian thought to himself. This tree was really worthy of its name because it was filled with the aura of death and could absorb people's souls. Hui Yi Chanchan paused. She felt very proud to be able to answer Yang Tian's question. She continued, this tree is not simple. Legend has it that it originally grew in the tomb of the gods and specialized in absorbing the souls of living creatures. Each of its leaves can form a special space. This tree is very domineering. No matter where it grows, it will swallow the living creatures nearby or make them kill each other. The only thing that can control this tree is the life worms that are born in the ley line. They can quickly eat the tree of death that has not yet grown. When Hui Yi Chanchan said this, Yang Tian was finally sure that he had been tricked by the talisman master. If he had not killed a large number of life worms, when the life worms came out, they would probably have eaten all the leaves of the tree of death. After absorbing the purple life crystals in the life worms, one's consciousness would be strengthened. However, the tree of death robbed one's consciousness. It was the opposite. The tree of death was not to be trifled with. When it bloomed, it was fully grown. When the leaves fell, it created a space annihilation and destroyed the white life worms. It was probably a way for the tree of death to protect itself at a critical moment. In fact, when Yang Tian saw the life worms eating the black leaves, he also hoped that they would destroy this evil tree. If he had known that the life worms could not do it, he would have killed a few more to obtain more life crystals. That was what he thought. However, when Yang Tian saw a large number of cultivators rushing out after the life worms ate a hole in the black leaves and saw the life worms save so many people, he would not attack the life worms. After some thought, Yang Tian asked again, what are those fruits? Of course, they are the fruit of death. Hui Yi Chanchan said, although the name is not good, you can attack them continuously before they are fully mature. After harvesting them, you can extract a large amount of energy for cultivation. What about the ones that ripen naturally? Hui Yi Miao Miao suddenly asked curiously. Hui Yi Chanchan said, you can't let the fruit of death ripen naturally because a ripe fruit can swallow the entire continent. I understand now. Yang Tian's eyes flashed. After listening to Hui Yi Chanchan, he finally understood the talisman master's plan. If he was not wrong, the tree of death needed a large amount of energy to grow. If it was planted in the soil of the outside world, it would grow very slowly. However, if it was planted in a natural talisman array, it would absorb the energy of the natural talisman array and grow very quickly. In addition, the talisman master would provide it with energy. After a long life of cultivation, Yang Tian only needed a little bit of information to be able to guess most of the things he knew. Chapter 735. Although it was very lively ahead, Yang Tian only took a few glances before retracting his gaze. Yang Tian had obtained some crucial information from Hui and Chanchan. He needed to sort it out in his mind. This was a very important matter. Only by understanding the gist of it could he defeat the Talisman Master. Yang Tian closed his eyes. The Talisman Master was undoubtedly a legendary figure. Then, he would start to deduce from the world he had left. After the Talisman Master had come to this world, he must have made a name for himself with the little talisman in his possession, which was the second-generation rune program. At this time, the 3 great temples had already existed. Previously, Yang Tian had used the strange program to display his prowess in runes, which had attracted Ku Man's attention. Then, the Talisman Master would definitely be recruited by the temple. Then, did the Talisman Master agree? Yang Tian deduced that the Talisman Master must have agreed. At this time, the Talisman Master should not have been as ambitious as he was now. After all, his lifespan was almost up. His main purpose of joining the temple was probably to extend his lifespan. During his time in the temple, the Talisman Master had found the natural rune array. At the same time, he had obtained detailed information about the Tree of Death and knew that the temple had the seed of the Tree of Death. After some research, he combined the natural rune array with the Tree of Death and came up with this ambitious plan. If it were anyone else, they would definitely not be so ambitious. But who was the Talisman Master? He was the first person to create a rune program, and at the same time, he had perverse perseverance. With the combination of these 2 factors, it would not be strange to create a second unimaginable miracle. Then what happened next? The Talisman Master must have stolen the seed of the Tree of Death from the temple and was hunted down by the people of the temple. During this process, because of the special nature of the machine race, they became the main force in the process of hunting down the Talisman Master. The Talisman Master had told Yang Tian that he had come to this world and encountered the machine race, and was hunted down by them. This was definitely a lie, so as not to reveal the secret. After escaping the pursuit, the Talisman Master came to this world again and began his unimaginable and huge plan. The Talisman Master said that he had no choice but to destroy the first-generation rune program. This statement was obviously not correct. Looking at Little Talisman's fate, it was clear that the Talisman Master needed a tool that could be sacrificed for him, not a sentient being. What if the rune program didn't listen to the rune master at a critical moment? After experiencing those things, the Talisman Master returned to this world and lay dormant in the natural talisman array. In order to achieve his goal, he casually established the Lamu clan. As for the destruction of his body, it was most likely done by the Realm Protector Emissary, the mysterious black-robed elder. He must have known what the Talisman Lord was up to and could not help but attack him. The people of the temple probably knew about the natural talisman matrix, and the second time the Talisman Lord had come to this world. Perhaps they had sensed the Talisman Lord's purpose and felt that the Talisman Lord would help them accomplish something they could not, so they pretended not to know. After waiting for an unknown number of years, Yang Tian's arrival coincided with the start of the Talisman Master's plan. As for why the Talisman Master had been dormant for so long, it was firstly because he had lost his physical body and needed to recuperate. Secondly, it was definitely because the natural talisman array had yet to meet the requirement. He could only wait. At the same time, he took advantage of this time to make precise calculations. To others, hundreds of thousands of years were like a day and they would have gone crazy long ago. However, the Talisman Master was an unparalleled freak in this aspect. Yang Tian analyzed the entire process in his mind for a long time. He was confident that the Talisman Lord's experience and the result of his analysis were not far from the truth. The only difference was that there were some minor details. Although he knew that those fruits were good stuff, Yang Tian felt very uncomfortable when he thought about how the Tree of Death had plundered the souls of many people to grow those fruit. He decided not to join in the fun. From afar, those fruits of death that had been ripened looked like tomatoes. After turning red, they were gently separated from the branches by the cultivators. The cultivators with fast hands immediately kept them in their storage bracelet. The Tree of Death was undoubtedly the Talisman Master's treasure. How could he allow others to destroy it? The 3 temple lords of the temple must have wanted to obtain the ripened fruits of death. Now that they had been destroyed, Yang Tian was somewhat puzzled. Hui Chanchan did not know the answer to this question either. However, Yang Tian soon found out the reason. In order for a tree to bear fruit, it also needed nourishment. When many fruits were ripened and plucked, more energy gathered toward the few fruits of death that were hidden. Soon, in a place where the branches of the Tree of Death were densely packed, a blue fruit of death had grown to twice the size of the other fruits of death. This fruit of death was not undiscovered by the cultivators. The reason it was not ripened was because it grew in the densest part of the branches. Most of the cultivators' attacks on it were blocked by the branches. From afar, the giant black tree looked small. However, upon closer inspection, one would discover that it was extremely huge. There were at least tens of thousands of fruit. So many fruits were ripened and plucked after several hours of attack. In the end, only the largest one was left. Hundreds of thousands of cultivators did not even get one. The last remaining one was naturally fought over by the crowd. In the end, no matter how much energy they used on it, it could not change its color. It grew at an extremely fast speed, growing faster and faster. Because the other fruits of death had been plucked, the remaining one was supplied with the energy of the entire tree. Naturally, it grew faster and faster. As the fruit of death grew, one could clearly see that the black tree's trunk and branches were withering at an extremely fast speed. It seemed that the last fruit of death was about to ripen. When the last fruit of death had grown to the point where it occupied more than half of the space in the black tree's crown, it suddenly lit up. The temple lord of the everlasting temple, Kuang Xing, immediately waved his hand. The people of the 3 temples received the order and immediately returned. The temple's people had retreated, but the other cultivators did not give up. Many of them remained and continued to attack. However, the fully grown fruit of death had thick skin and flesh. No matter how they attacked, it did not move an inch. Kuang Xing's timing was very accurate. When the temple's people had retreated to a safe distance, the fruit of death suddenly lit up with a dazzling blue light. The black tree trunk and branches turned into powder in the bright blue light. Ha ha ha! At this moment, a burst of wild laughter came from within the blue light. There was no need to guess. Yang Tian knew that it was the Talisman Lord. After hundreds of thousands of years and careful calculations, the Talisman Lord had finally reaped his harvest. He had become one with the naturally ripened fruit of death. Chapter 736. The Talisman Lord who had been in hiding for a long time finally appeared. Yang Tian could not help but heave a sigh of relief. It was good that he had appeared. There was always a way to deal with him. If this guy had been hiding, with his willpower that was stronger than a rock, it would not have been easy to deal with him. The blue light gradually dimmed, revealing the Talisman Lord's true body. This guy no longer looked like a human, but a monster. His upper body was human, and his lower body was a black tree trunk. His feet had become a bunch of tree root. Perfect body. Seeing the Talisman Lord's appearance, Huey Meow Meow could not help but exclaim. Yang Tian frowned and said, "Isn't he a monster? How did he become a perfect body?" Huey Meow Meow said, "That's what the legends say. Our ancestor was originally like this. When this world was formed, his upper body became an animal, and his lower body became a plant. After countless years, this world's variety of plants and animals were finally born. It was just a legend. Different races had different legends. For example, China's legend was that Pangu created the world and Nuwa created it. On Earth, the Western world said that the world was created by God, and that humans were the descendants of Adam and Eve. This was obviously fake. The Talisman Lord, who had turned into a half-human half-tree, had a huge body. After a burst of wild laughter, he suddenly disappeared. Immediately after, the entire space lit up. From a dark world of nothingness, it turned into a real starry sky. This starry sky scene was too familiar to Yang Tian. It was as if he had suddenly returned home. However, to Huey Meow Meow and the rest, it was very unfamiliar. They were born on land and had never left. They could not leave land, so they could not imagine what the world outside land was like. If you want to stop me, destroy the world that I created first. Ha ha. Just as everyone was in a daze, the Talisman Lord's voice suddenly echoed in the entire space. This is a sealed space. The strange program's voice suddenly sounded in Yang Tian's mind. The strange program told Yang Tian that this sealed space was similar to the space that the Talisman Lord had created to seal the Weikong spaceship. This space was powerful not because it made people confused, but because it was boundless and gave people fear. Instead, it was because of the passage of time. A quarter of an hour here was equivalent to hundreds or even thousands of years outside. When the cultivators left this place, they might discover that the world they were familiar with had undergone a huge change. There was naturally no lack of talisman experts by the side of the three hall masters. Through the talisman detection device, they quickly found out how formidable this space was. To the cultivators trapped here, time was very precious. They couldn't afford to waste even a second. The people from the three temples reacted quickly. They made their decision in less than a minute. No matter how powerful the array glyphs were, they would not be able to trap Yang Tian and the others because Yang Tian had a strange program. While the strange program was rapidly calculating, Limitless Temples Guangxing, Cosmic Temples Jimi, and Sky Domain Temples Yugui, the three temple masters separated and stopped several kilometers apart. If the three of them were connected by a straight line, one would find that they formed an equilateral triangle. The location of the three of them had obviously been precisely calculated. Whether it was Yang Tian or the three temple masters, it would take some time to break out of this space. Hui Chanchan was already squatting on Little Green Turtle's back. Little Blue Dragon was lying on Little Green Turtle's head. Little Green Tortoise, which had grown bigger, had a much wider chest than Yang Tian's shoulders. Yang Tian looked at Little Green Tortoise's resentful eyes with a clear conscience. Brother Yang, this place is so beautiful." Hui Chanchan looked around and exclaimed. In her world, she had never seen such a wondrous sight in space. For example, there was a huge star nearby, emitting a dazzling light. Around this star, there were a total of 12 planets of different sizes and colors. Around each planet, there were 1 to several satellites of varying numbers. Among the 12 planets, there were 2 blue planets. It was obvious that they were habitable planets. Most of the cultivators stayed where they were. A few flew toward the planets out of curiosity. Hearing Hui Chanchan's exclamation, Yang Tian smiled. "My hometown is a world like this. It's called the universe. These spheres are called planets. Look at that glowing planet. It's a star. Together with the 12 planets around it, they form a small galaxy. That's amazing. I want to take a look at that blue planet." After hearing Yang Tian's explanation, Hui Chanchan was eager to give it a try. However, Yang Tian shook his head. "This is fake. If you fly toward it, you will never reach it." In addition to the change in time, the space in this sealed space had also changed. The best way to deal with it was to stay in the same place and deal with the changes by remaining unchanged. Well said. Just as Yang Tian finished speaking, Black Talisman Lord's voice was suddenly heard. The 3 temple masters were preparing to break this sealed space. They had their own talisman masters, and did not believe that Black Talisman Lord was fine. Hence, they flew over. "What are they doing?" Yang Tian turned around and asked Black Talisman Lord with a smile. Black Talisman Lord said, "What else? They want to break this sealed space. By the way, this should be your specialty, right?" Yang Tian only smiled and did not comment. While the strange program was calculating, it constantly reported the progress to Yang Tian. In about 5 minutes, they would be able to break this sealed space. The conversation between Yang Tian and Black Talisman Lord sounded like a conversation between old friends. As he spoke, Black Talisman Lord glanced at the 3 temple masters and said to Yang Tian, "The Talisman Lord's plan can no longer be completed. Perhaps he does not know that he has been targeted by the temple for a long time. All this time, the temple has only been using him. During this period of time with the Everlasting Temple, the Talisman Lord had obtained a lot of information about him. What he told Yang Tian was similar to what Yang Tian had guessed. However, what surprised Yang Tian was that Black Talisman Lord told Yang Tian that the Talisman Lord had been severely injured. At this moment, Yang Tian recalled that he had seen the 3 temple masters break through the trunk of the black tree. At this moment, the 3 temple masters finally made their move. Suddenly, there was a buzzing sound. It was unknown what method the 3 temple masters used, but the triangular space between the 3 of them suddenly shattered like glass. Countless fragments, together with the starry sky, flew in all directions and the triangular space turned pitch black. The disciples of the 3 temple masters flew into the black triangular space when it formed. The other cultivators also followed them into the broken space passage. "It's broken. Shall we go too?" Black Talisman Lord smiled at Yang Tian. Yang Tian shook his head and smiled. "I'd better not join in the fun." Black Talisman Lord narrowed his eyes when he heard Yang Tian's words. Chapter 737. Black Talisman Lord hesitated. He was considering if he should follow Yang Tian or enter the triangular black space as soon as possible. In the end, Black Talisman Lord gritted his teeth and turned to leave. He took advantage of the fact that the exit was still open to enter the black triangular space. The 3 temple lords tore open the space. After the disciples of the temple left, they left as well. The triangular entrance shrunk at an extremely fast speed. When it disappeared, at least 1/3 of the cultivators were still unable to leave. The remaining people included members of the Hui family. Radiance Baixing had already discovered Yang Tian and his group. For the sake of his family, he did not dare to get too close to Yang Tian. Now that the people from the temple had left and the exit had been sealed, he had nothing to worry about. Previously, the Hui family had mobilized thousands of people to set off from their ancestral ground. Now they were either dead or missing. There were less than 50 people left with Hui Baixing. This could be considered a heavy loss. Of course, it was the same for the other families. They were not much better off than the Hui family. "Yang Tian, do you have a way to get out?" Radiance Baixing asked as he flew in front of Yang Tian and saw the smile on Yang Tian's face. Yang Tian was not surprised by Radiance Baixing's appearance. It would be strange if the other families did not come for such a big event. "Don't worry, Patriarch. We can get out," Yang Tian said confidently and raised his hands. As his hands moved, rune energy shot out from Yang Tian's hands. At the same time, a circular, rippling surface appeared in the formless space in front of them. It was about 10 meters in diameter. Compared to the commotion caused by the 3 temple masters, this was considered very gentle. The Talisman Lord's ability had increased and the sealed space was much tougher than before. It would take some time to break it open, but at this moment, the dense starlight in the distance decreased rapidly. Almost at the same time, Yang Tian felt a strong spatial energy coming from all directions. It was spatial annihilation. Yang Tian did not expect that the Talisman Lord would be so ruthless as to want to kill everyone in this space. The space was being annihilated very quickly. Within a few seconds, the entire sealed space had been reduced by 1/3. At this time, the beautiful starry sky had already disappeared, and it had become pitch black. Yang Tian gritted his teeth and sped up. The surrounding cultivators had already sensed the annihilation of space. They panicked and fled in all directions. Open! At the critical moment, Yang Tian shouted. The rippling space finally turned into a pitch-black tunnel. Hurry up and leave! As soon as the space opened, Yang Tian shouted at everyone. Everyone knew that this was a critical moment. Without any hesitation, they rushed into the spatial tunnel at an extremely fast speed. Everyone knew that this spatial passage was opened by Yang Tian using his own energy. He had to persevere until the end. Soon, other than the little blue dragon who was accompanying Yang Tian, Huey Miao Miao, Huey Chan Chan, Huey Baixing and dozens of others disappeared into the spatial tunnel. Not far away, some cultivators saw the spatial tunnel and flew over frantically. From the beginning of the annihilation until now, less than 3 minutes had passed. At least 2/3 of the entire space had been annihilated. The hundreds of people closest to Yang Tian were undoubtedly the lucky ones. They quickly rushed into the spatial tunnel. Yang Tian wanted to save more people. But when he looked around, he realized that thousands of people had noticed him and were flying over frantically. If these people left in an orderly manner, there would be enough time. But humans were selfish. How could they remain calm in the face of life and death? Looking at the crazed expressions on these people's faces, Yang Tian knew that if he did not leave now, once these people crowded at the entrance, even he, the person who opened the spatial tunnel, would not be spared. Sorry, Yang Tian said plainly. He retracted his hand and rushed into the black spatial tunnel. Once Yang Tian left, the spatial tunnel immediately disappeared. Pung pung pung, Yang Tian left at the right time. If he was 1 or 2 seconds later, it would have been over. Once the tunnel disappeared, thousands of cultivators collided with each other. In order to leave, these people used their fastest speed. In the end, the spatial tunnel disappeared in the last 10 seconds. The cultivators who could not leave started to kill each other frantically. This was how they faced their impending death. After Yang Tian left the sealed space, he thought that he would be able to meet up with Huey Miao Miao and the others. Unexpectedly, he was in a place similar to the galaxy mirage. What appeared in front of him were red tree roots. These were obviously the rune energy lines of the natural talisman array. Most of the natural talisman array's energy had been sucked away by the talisman master. The originally bright and ruby-like rune energy lines had now become dull and lifeless. It was as if they had lost their moisture. Yang Tian. Just as Yang Tian was looking around in a daze, a cold shout suddenly came from the side. Yang Tian was all too familiar with this voice. It was Ku Man. Yang Tian frowned and turned around. He saw Ku Man standing on one of the rune energy lines not too far away. He was looking at him with a cold smile. To be honest, Yang Tian did not want to see Ku Man before he reached a higher level. Yang Tian, how dare you lie to me? Now I want you dead. Before Ku Man could finish his words, he flashed and appeared on one of the rune energy lines less than 20 meters away from Yang Tian. Crack, the rune energy lines were not as tough as before. When Ku Man landed on the bull-sized rune energy line, the rune energy line broke and let out a crisp sound. At this distance, he was already within attack range. Yang Tian immediately used his spiritual power to pull himself back. The little blue dragon that was lying on Yang Tian's shoulder suddenly sprung up and transformed into a golden dragon that was dozens of meters long. It opened its mouth and spat out a golden dragon flame at Ku Man. While the little blue dragon had already reached the destiny realm, it was still no match for Ku Man. Before the dragon flame could reach Ku Man had already disappeared. Die! A cold shout suddenly came from above the little blue dragon's head. What came next was a powerful force. The little blue dragon swung its tail and moved several meters to the side. With a whoosh, a powerful force brushed past the little blue dragon's body and landed on one of the rune energy lines below the little blue dragon. The rune energy line that had become so weak could not withstand such a powerful force and was shattered into pieces. At this time, the little blue dragon's dragon flame finally landed where Ku-man was standing. Boom! But what he did not expect was that when the dragon flame landed on the rune energy line, it ignited the rune energy line. With a loud explosion, all the rune energy lines around him began to burn, releasing an unbearable heat. Chapter 738. The rune energy was burning, and the heat that it released could melt steel. The moment the flames rose, Yang Tian released his spiritual energy to protect himself. However, with Withered Barbarian's level, the high temperature did not have much of an effect on her combat ability. Whoosh! She appeared in front of Yang Tian and slammed her palm toward Yang Tian's chest. Withered Barbarian was too fast. Yang Tian did not have the time to dodge. He could only grit his teeth and use his spiritual energy to form a shield in front of his chest. Other than his spiritual energy, powerful force also surged out from the original realm and gathered in front of his chest. Bam! With a muffled sound, Withered Barbarian's palm shattered Yang Tian's spiritual energy shield and landed on Yang Tian's chest. Yang Tian's body was like a cannonball as he flew into the burning rune energy. Withered Barbarian's speed was too fast. The little blue dragon did not even have time to react before Yang Tian was hit by her. Seeing Yang Tian fly into the red flames, the little blue dragon let out an angry roar, and its huge body suddenly split into 5. 5 little blue dragons that looked exactly the same rushed toward Withered Barbarian. This was a new ability that the little blue dragon had gained after leveling up. After reaching the Destiny Realm, it could create 4 clones at once. Including its original body, it would have 5 bodies in total. The 4 clones were the same as the original body. No one could tell which one was the real one. Seeing the little blue dragon split into 5, Withered Barbarian thought that it was an illusion. She was not afraid of illusions because the difference between the clones created and the real body was too great. Seeing the 5 little blue dragons rushing toward her, each of them burning with flames, Withered Barbarian did not move. Instead, she used her sharp senses to identify which one was the real little blue dragon. Very quickly, Withered Barbarian was surprised. This was because she couldn't tell which of the 5 dragons was the real one based on her senses. Each of the 5 little blue dragons radiated life energy fluctuations and powerful auras. Apart from this, the 5 dragons were able to stir up the high-temperature flames in the air. Were they all real? Impossible. Ku-man was a top expert among the cultivators, so he naturally knew that it was almost impossible to create a clone. Even the most powerful person in the temple master who had reached the soul travel realm, could not do it. The little blue dragon was very fast. In the blink of an eye, it had closed in on Ku-man. It charged at Ku-man from 5 different directions. From the looks of it, the little blue dragon wanted to use its head to smash Ku-man's body. Dragons would only use such an attack when they were extremely enraged. After all, their strongest weapon was their physical body. Seeing the anger in the little blue dragon's eyes and its speed, Ku-man quickly determined that if she was hit by the little blue dragon, she would definitely be injured. After the battle with the Talisman Lord, Ku-man had used up a lot of energy. Even now, she had not recovered to her peak strength. Naturally, she did not want to be injured. Ku-man clenched his teeth and suddenly disappeared from where he stood. In terms of speed, Ku-man was even faster than the little blue dragon. Ku-man dodged to the side and looked at the 5 identical little blue dragons. The timing of her dodging was perfect. If nothing unexpected happened, the 5 dragons would collide with each other. However, the result shocked Ku-man. Because when the 5 dragons collided, they did not injure each other as she had expected. Instead, 4 of the dragons suddenly disappeared. Only then did Ku-man react. She knew that only one of the 5 dragons was real. The others were just illusions. She had been played by a mutated beast. The conceited Ku-man was furious. She no longer wanted to check on Yang Tian, who had been slapped into the flames. Instead, she charged at the little blue dragon. Ku-man used her fastest speed to appear above the little blue dragon and slammed her palm down. It was as if Little Blue had already noticed it. Before Ku-man's palm hit it, it once again split into 5 and disappeared from its original position. The 5 dragons circled around Withered Barbarian in the air, and just like before, they charged towards Withered Barbarian again. Ku-man's eyes flashed. She did not dodge. Instead, she gathered her most powerful energy and covered her body. Pung! There was a loud sound. The 5 little blue dragons crashed into Ku-man at the same time. That was what it looked like. But in reality, only the little blue dragon's real body had crashed into Ku-man. Ku-man's prediction was correct. The 4 clones of the little blue dragon were actually illusions formed by the energy within its body. Because the little blue dragon had spiritual power, it could form a consciousness on each of its illusions. That was why Ku-man could not tell which was the real one. Since she could not tell which dragon was the real one, Ku-man decided to just stay where she was and let the little blue dragon crash into her. That way, the real little blue dragon would be exposed to her. After Ku-man was hit by the little azure dragon, his body moved more than 10 meters horizontally and suddenly disappeared from the spot. This was something that Ku-man had calculated. After the little blue dragon had hit Ku-man, it was still moving forward due to inertia. Seeing Ku-man disappear in front of its eyes, the little blue dragon knew that it was in trouble. As expected, when Ku-man reappeared, she was right above its head. At this time, the little blue dragon could no longer dodge. Although it could not dodge, the little blue dragon still swung its tail and dodged to the side. At this time, Ku-man had a crazy smile on her face as she slammed her palm toward the little blue dragon's head. This was her most powerful attack. She was confident that as long as it hit the little blue dragon, even if the little blue dragon did not die, it would be severely injured and lose its ability to fight. Boom! Whoosh! At that moment, the flames on the side exploded as a crescent-shaped red sword chi slashed toward Ku-man. At this critical moment, Yang Tian had finally appeared. Seeing the sword chi coming, Ku-man instinctively wanted to dodge. But she quickly realized that while the sword chi was powerful, it could not hurt her. But in that moment, Ku-man's attack was only half of what she had prepared. Pung! Ku-man's palm hit the little blue dragon's head. At the same time, Yang Tian's sword chi had also landed on Ku-man's body. The little blue dragon's gigantic body rolled a few times in the air before it stopped. It shook its head a few times and was only dazed for a few seconds before it woke up. Ku-man wanted to kill or severely injure the little blue dragon with this attack. But since her attack was only half of what she had prepared, she did not achieve her goal. The little blue dragon was fine, but Ku-man was shocked. Her instincts told her that Yang Tian's sword chi was not powerful and could not hurt her. However, she did not expect Yang Tian's saber energy to be so strange. It instantly broke through her protective energy, and a portion of it entered her body, wildly destroying her body's cells. Ku-man was shocked and quickly used her energy to expel the force that had invaded her body. During this process, Yang Tian had already flown onto the little blue dragon's back. The little blue dragon carried Yang Tian into the flames and disappeared from Ku-man's sight. Of course, Ku-man would not give up on this chance to kill Yang Tian. In a few breaths' time, she had expelled Yang Tian's force and immediately chased after him. Chapter 739. The rune energy lines in the entire space started to burn. Flames were everywhere. The burning of the rune energy lines did not require oxygen. The temperature was trapped in this space and could not be released. It was getting higher and higher. Xiaolong, this is too uncomfortable. We have to find a way to get out. While flying, Yang Tian glanced at his surroundings and frowned. Other than the high temperature, the biggest threat to Yang Tian and the little blue dragon was the withered barbarian behind them. Luckily, this space was filled with rune energy lines. Once it started to burn, there would be fire everywhere and it would block their vision. In addition, Yang Tian used his spiritual energy to hide his and the little blue dragon's aura. It would be very difficult for the withered barbarian to find them. After flying for an unknown period of time, the entire space started to rumble and shake. The flames in the space started to become messy. The broken rune energy lines started to burn and fly everywhere. With this movement, the rune energy lines started to burn even more vigorously. The temperature in the space started to rise. Yang Tian's spiritual energy was being consumed at an extremely fast speed. He estimated that he could only last for half an hour at most. Xiao Long, stop. Yang Tian had no choice but to ask the little blue dragon to stop. At this time, they had to use a rune array to defend against the high temperature. But this way, they would be discovered by the withered barbarian. When most rune arrays were in operation, they would release rune energy waves to the surroundings. If the withered barbarian had a tool that could detect rune energy, it would know where Yang Tian and the others were. Rather than fight to the death with the withered barbarian, Yang Tian did not want to be roasted by the high temperature. After the little blue dragon stopped, there was no need for Yang Tian to remind it. The strange program controlled countless rune energy particles to appear. They circled in the air and formed a rune array that could resist the high temperature. In order to prevent the Yang Tian and the little blue dragon's aura from spreading out and being discovered by the withered barbarian, the strange program built a rune array that could hide their aura inside the rune array. At this time, Yang Tian finally let out a long breath. However, he didn't let down his guard because Ku Man could appear at any moment. Withered Barbarian did not study runes. Logically speaking, even if the rune energy touched him, he should not be able to sense it. However, Ku Man, who knew that Yang Tian was extremely skilled in runes, asked Black Talisman Lord for a rune tool. In order to please Ku Man, Black Talisman Monarch immediately took out a small toy and gave it to Ku Man. It was a black bead. While Ku Man was searching for Yang Tian, he had been holding this bead in his hand. As long as Yang Tian used the array, Ku Man would immediately know where Yang Tian was. In such a harsh environment, other cultivators might have considered how to leave at the first moment. However, Withered Barbarian was stubborn. If he wanted to do something, he would definitely do it. Moreover, she knew that if she let Yang Tian go this time, the next time she wanted to kill Yang Tian, she didn't know when she would have to wait. When the strange program built a rune array to resist the high temperature, the rune energy was inevitably released. The black bead in Ku Man's hand that detected the rune energy suddenly lit up and shot a ray of blue light in the direction of the rune energy. Although this ray of blue light was only a flash, it pointed in the direction of Yang Tian and the little blue dragon. Ku Man immediately flew in the direction of Yang Tian. Rumble! At this moment, the space shook even more violently. Ku Man's eyes were filled with flames and burning rune energy fragments. Frowning, Ku Man gritted his teeth and directly charged towards the cluster of rune energy in front of him. Pring, pring, pring! Ku Man's body was like a cannonball. He brutally broke through the cluster of rune energy and flew in a straight line towards Yang Tian. Here it comes. Ku Man was discovered when he was still a few hundred meters away from Yang Tian. At this time, Yang Tian did not have the time to dodge. He raised his sword and slashed at Ku Man. Whoosh! A condensed red saber chi flew towards Ku Man under the cover of the red flames. Purring, Ku Man did not expect Yang Tian to attack him first. As he flew, he accurately crashed into the sword chi that Yang Tian had unleashed. There was a sound of an explosion. This saber chi also broke through Ku Man's energy defenses, and a portion of its power invaded Ku Man's body. Ku Man, who had already been hit by Yang Tian's attack, was still rushing towards Yang Tian as he expelled the force from his body. The difference between Yang Tian and Ku Man was too great. The force was not enough to kill Ku Man. To Ku Man, it was just a small problem. After unleashing the sword chi, the little blue dragon flew towards the left with Yang Tian. Earlier, because Ku Man was trying to expel Yang Tian's force, he had stopped for a while. That was why Yang Tian was able to escape. But now it was different, because as the little blue dragon flew, it would stir up the flames and the rune energy fragments in the air. Using the flames and the rune energy fragments, Ku Man was able to track Yang Tian. The little blue dragon had not even flown 500 meters when Ku Man appeared in front of Yang Tian. At this time, Ku Man's face was filled with a crazy smile. He looked like a crazy woman. "Old woman, watch my sword." Yang Tian looked at Ku Man's crazy face and roared. He held his sword with both hands and slashed out a dozen times. More than a dozen sword chis were unleashed toward Ku Man. Under the control of Yang Tian's spiritual energy, the sword chis were constantly changing their trajectory and speed. It was very difficult to defend against them. But Ku Man did not care about the sword chis. He allowed the dozen sword chis to hit him. The word, old woman, really hurt Ku Man, speaking of which, this was the pain that Ku Man had been hiding in his heart. The man that Yang Tian killed was called Duke Hongyao. He was the man that Ku Man liked. But Duke Hongyao already had a wife and was not willing to accept her. There was once when Ku Man went to find Duke Hongyao's wife. But she was called an old woman. To be honest, withered barbarian was also very beautiful. Even though she was old now, she could still be described as charming. These two words were enough to make Ku Man lose his mind. Die! Soon, Ku Man rushed past Yang Tian's sword chis. He let out a ghost-like roar. At the same time, Ku Man's speed suddenly increased by at least a third. She appeared dozens of meters away from Yang Tian. A purple scimitar appeared in each of her hands. Ku Man did not need to use a weapon to kill a cultivator of Yang Tian's level. But in order to kill Yang Tian in one strike, she did not hold back. This was the power that Ku Man had been hiding. She would not show it to anyone unless it was a critical moment. Even when she was at a disadvantage against the Talisman Lord, Ku Man did not use a weapon. Now that Ku Man had taken out her weapon, she gave off an even more dangerous aura. Chapter 740. Ku Man put the hilts of the two scimitars together. With a cracking sound, the two scimitars formed An's shape. Whoosh! Next, Ku Man threw out the scimitar. It turned into a purple light and flew toward Yang Tian. The spinning scimitar did not fly in a straight line. Instead, it flew in an arc. A straight line was the shortest distance, but it was easy to guard against and dodge. However, an arc like this was hard to predict. After Ku Man threw out the flying scimitar, she was still in control of it and could adjust its trajectory at any time. In order to kill Yang Tian, Ku Man had used her most powerful attack. She believed that at such a distance, even a cultivator at the same level would find it difficult to dodge. At that moment, Yang Tian was enveloped by the powerful aura of the purple flying scimitar. He felt like he could not fight back. He could not die like this. With his powerful will, Yang Tian mobilized all of his spiritual power and formed an energy shield around him. The strange program had already started to move. Before Ku Man even threw out her scimitar, it had already created a talisman array made of spatial runes at an extremely fast speed. When it came to absorbing energy, there was no better talisman array than spatial runes. Why did Yang Tian not dodge? Because he knew that Ku Man was faster than him. It was impossible for him to dodge. Not to mention, he would also be wasting his energy. He might as well do what he was doing now and use his most powerful energy to face the attack. Whoosh! Facing the purple light, Yang Tian focused his spiritual power and unleashed his most powerful attack. A red sword chi rushed out from the tip of the red scimitar. It turned into a red light and rushed toward the purple light. Bang! The two lights clashed and there was a loud noise. Yang Tian's red sword chi was shattered by the purple light as expected. However, it continued to fly toward Yang Tian. During the collision, the purple light did not even lose 1/3 of its energy. It did not seem to be slowing down at all. With Yang Tian's current level and the strange program's array glyphs, it was obvious that he could not withstand Ku Man's purple flying daggers. The strange program needed to consume energy to set up a rune array. When it had broken the Rune Master's sealed space, the strange program had consumed a lot of energy. Obviously, the number of rune energy particles controlled by the strange program had decreased by a lot. At this critical moment, the little blue dragon swung its tail and blocked the path of the purple light. The purple light was like a bullet flying at high speed, blasting a large hole in the little blue dragon's tail. Red blood splattered everywhere, ignited by the surrounding red flames, forming a large ball of golden flames. Pung pung pung. Then, there were 3 more muffled sounds. The first sound was when the firewood-colored flying dagger broke through the strange program's defense. The second sound was when it broke through Yang Tian's spiritual energy layer and directly hit Yang Tian's chest. The powerful impact had caved in Yang Tian's chest and forced Yang Tian to spit out blood. Luckily, the purple flying dagger did not cut Yang Tian's body in half as Ku Man had hoped. When the purple flying dagger was flying, it had broken through 5 layers of energy defenses. Especially when it broke through the little blue dragon's tail, its energy had decreased by at least half. Whoosh! The purple flying dagger did not cut through Yang Tian's body, but it did knock Yang Tian away. It let out a scream and flew back to Ku Man's hand in an arc. From the time Ku Man attacked to the time the purple flying dagger returned to his hand, the entire process took less than 2 seconds. The little blue dragon's dragon blood was burning with golden flames. It was so bright that Ku Man squinted his eyes. Of course, this was done on purpose by the little blue dragon. It was for the next step. Ku Man was someone that it and Yang Tian would have a hard time defeating. The best thing to do was to run. The golden light made it so that Ku Man could not continue to attack. But after Ku Man put away his blade, he still rushed toward Yang Tian's direction. Boom! As soon as Ku Man rushed through the golden flames, there was a loud noise as a powerful explosion occurred not too far away. The violent air was blowing Yang Tian, the little blue dragon, and Ku Man toward the same direction. The airflow was so fast that Ku Man could not move as he was being carried by the airflow. He was like a leaf in the wind, flying toward one direction without being able to fight back. Within the airflow created by the frenzy, Yang Tian and Ku Man could not see each other even though they were less than 20 meters apart. This was because they were both surrounded by the red flames. Within the airflow, the burning runes were not extinguished. Instead, they were burning faster and releasing higher temperatures. Of course, at this time, Yang Tian and Ku Man could not sense each other's presence. The little blue dragon used its 2 dragon whiskers to wrap around Yang Tian's body so that it could not be separated from the injured Yang Tian. Originally, the little blue dragon wanted to escape with Yang Tian. It had already thought of a plan, but it did not expect that the airflow would suddenly explode and create such a powerful airflow. It had to be said that this explosion had come at the perfect time. Originally, the little azure dragon had planned to sacrifice its cultivation level and use a secret technique to forcefully increase its battle strength. In the worst-case scenario, it would have perished together with the withered barbarian. But now, at least for the time being, the danger was over. He did not know where the violent airflow would blow him and Yang Tian to. It would be best if they were separated from Ku Man. Yang Tian suffered a heavy blow. The energy carried by the Ku Man saber entered his body during the impact. It made Yang Tian feel unbearable pain and dizziness, but after a few breaths of time, he regained his senses. The black hole in Yang Tian's origin realm had played a crucial role at this time. It had actually absorbed all of Ku Man's energy. This black hole had formed in the origin realm when Yang Tian came out of the blood embryo. It allowed Yang Tian to have the ability to absorb energy. But there was a limit to the amount of energy he could absorb. For example, he could not absorb the energy released by Ku Man because it was too powerful. Fortunately, although he could not use this ability to resist Ku Man, the black hole had played a role at this critical moment. Otherwise, Yang Tian would have needed more time to expel Ku Man's energy from his body. At this time, Yang Tian had not realized that the wound on the little blue dragon's tail had not healed and was still bleeding. But he could feel the little blue dragon's pain because the pressure in the airflow was very great. It was squeezing the little blue dragon's body. Faced with Yang Tian's grateful gaze, the little blue dragon's eyes were full of smiles. No matter what, they were safe now. The man and dragon had come so far and were willing to die for each other. There was no need to be polite to each other. Boom, 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 and the explosions in the space did not stop. Every once in a while, about 5 or 6 minutes, there would be another explosion. As the explosions continued, the airflow became faster and more chaotic. Of course, Yang Tian and the little blue dragon, as well as Ku Man not far away, were enduring more and more pressure. If this continued, as the pressure grew stronger and stronger until their bodies could not bear it, only death would await them. As time passed, more and more blood flowed out of the little blue dragon's wound. In the end, it was spurting out. Yang Tian had no choice but to close his eyes. His eyeballs were being squeezed into his skull by an external force. The balls between his legs were about to explode. If he had not used his mental power to protect his body, his physical body would have been crushed by the pressure long ago. This can't go on. I have to think of a way. Immediately, Yang Tian sought help from the strange program in the sea, but he was told that it could not set up a talisman array in this situation. What should I do? Yang Tian thought quickly. Suddenly, he thought of the black hole in his body. Chapter 741. Using the power of the black hole in his body was the only method Yang Tian could use at the moment. As the saying goes, it's never a burden to have more skills. At the critical moment, he finally saved Yang Tian's life. With a thought, a black sphere with a diameter of 6 or 7 meters appeared above Yang Tian and the little blue dragon. As soon as this black hole appeared, it frantically devoured the violent energy around it. The invisible pressure on Yang Tian and the little blue dragon was suddenly reduced by several times. As soon as the pressure was lifted, Yang Tian spat out a mouthful of blood that had accumulated in his chest and felt much more relaxed. The little blue dragon had lost a lot of blood and was about to collapse. At this moment, the pressure was reduced and the wound began to heal at an extremely fast speed. The energy loss in Yang Tian and the little blue dragon's body was very serious, and they needed to replenish their energy at this moment. With the pressure reduced, they could finally move freely. Yang Tian immediately took out a black life crystal from his storage bracelet. This was an energy body produced in the body of an illusion realm beast. Yang Tian glanced at it and stuffed it into the little blue dragon's mouth. The little blue dragon did not even chew and swallowed it directly. As for Yang Tian himself, he took out a pill that the little blue dragon had stolen from the Hui family's warehouse last time. The little blue dragon was already a mythical beast in the Destiny realm. Swallowing an illusion realm life crystal did not have much effect. It was like a drop of water falling into a pool and was instantly absorbed by the little blue dragon's body. Being wrapped in this violent airflow, there was no telling when it would end. It had to recover its energy as soon as possible. Obviously, ordinary energy bodies could no longer satisfy the little blue dragon. Oh right, I almost forgot about it. Yang Tian looked at the items in the storage bracelet and suddenly saw the colorful crystals. This was left behind when the divine beast giant tortoise self-destructed after the people of the temple forced it to its death. The energy of this kind of crystal was very difficult to absorb. Back then, Yang Tian had even used a time talisman array to speed up the passage of time, allowing this kind of crystal to emit energy at an extremely fast speed. He wondered if the little blue dragon's stomach would be able to directly absorb this energy after reaching the Destiny Realm. After obtaining this crystal, Yang Tian also tried to let the little blue dragon swallow it, but the effect was not very ideal. Who cares? Let's give it a try. Yang Tian took out a fist-sized colored crystal from his storage bracelet and placed it into the little blue dragon's mouth. The little blue dragon did not hesitate and immediately swallowed it. Under Yang Tian's expectant gaze, the little blue dragon slowly closed its eyes. Its body suddenly emitted powerful energy waves. At the same time, the wound on the little blue dragon's tail suddenly healed faster. Due to the excessive bleeding, its body was weakened, but its life force was also becoming stronger. It was obvious that the energy of the colored crystal was being absorbed by the little blue dragon at an extremely fast speed. That was great. With the replenishment of energy, the little blue dragon would be able to recover to its peak strength in a short period of time. Now that the little blue dragon was fine, Yang Tian began to think for himself. The black hole above was connected to Yang Tian's energy world. Not only did it absorb the red flames flowing in the air, the invisible pressure also changed direction because of it. Whether it was the red flames or the invisible pressure, they were all energy. It was just that this kind of energy was not condensed. After the black hole absorbed the energy, it transformed into energy. To Yang Tian, it was pitifully little. What if I let the black hole absorb the energy of the colored crystal? This idea suddenly appeared in Yang Tian's mind. Moreover, apart from the colored crystal, there were also Laos crystals and life crystals. These types of energy crystals were very difficult for human cultivators to absorb directly. If he could use the black hole to absorb these energies, then the speed at which he could increase his level. Thinking of this wonderful result, Yang Tian could not help but become excited. Yang Tian first experimented with the Laos crystal. After taking out a standard-sized Laos crystal from his storage bracelet, he raised his hand and the Laos crystal was sucked into the black hole. The black hole transformed energy very quickly. In an instant, Yang Tian knew the result. In fact, this black hole was still different from the black holes in the universe. The black holes in the universe were like a pitio. Energy could only enter and not exit. However, after the black hole world in Yang Tian's body absorbed the energy, it directly transformed it into force after consuming some of the energy. A small piece of Laos crystal did not have much energy. It was not of much help to Yang Tian. He needed to absorb more energy. Next, Yang Tian took out a silver-white life crystal. Just like before, the life crystal was transformed into energy by the black hole at an extremely fast speed. Although this life crystal's energy was much richer than the Laos crystal, it was still very little for Yang Tian. It was not of much help to Yang Tian. Finally, Yang Tian took out the smallest colored crystal in his storage bracelet. It was only the size of a thumb. The little blue dragon, who was at Destiny Realm, only needed a fist-sized colored crystal to replenish its energy. Yang Tian, who was at a lower level than the little blue dragon, only needed about 1/5 of it. Yang Tian looked at the colored crystal in his hand and then threw it into the black hole. The black hole did not disappoint Yang Tian. After swallowing the colored crystal, it began to decompose the colored crystal at an extremely fast speed, releasing pure energy. Boom! There was a loud noise. In Yang Tian's original realm, there was a sudden loud noise. Out of nowhere, a huge amount of energy suddenly surged out, causing the entire original realm to shake. The original realm had enough energy and began to expand again. The excess energy turned into force and entered Yang Tian's body. Yang Tian's energy, which had been depleted, was almost instantly replenished. The cells in the injured area were replenished with energy and underwent metabolism at an extremely fast speed. New cells replaced dead or dying cells. Not only that, but because of the energy replenishment, the countless cells that made up the body rapidly increased in quality. If the little blue dragon had opened its eyes at this time, it would have been surprised to find that Yang Tian's body was growing at an extremely fast speed. In just a few minutes, he had turned from a 12-year-old boy to a 20-year-old boy, restoring his previous appearance. The clothes on Yang Tian's body tightened, revealing the beautiful lines of his muscles. At this time, Yang Tian's entire body, including his body and consciousness, felt a sense of satisfaction. For the time being, he had not noticed the changes in his body. He had a feeling that he only needed one more step to break through to the Destiny Enlightenment realm. However, to advance from the Illusion realm to the Destiny Enlightenment realm was not something that could be done just by having sufficient energy. It also required comprehension, and sometimes it also required luck. The little blue dragon swallowing that high-temperature ball of light was a kind of luck. This won't do. After an unknown period of time, Yang Tian opened his eyes and sighed with a bitter smile. Although he had comprehended for a long time, he was still unable to take that step. He could not use the little blue dragon's advancement to the Destiny Enlightenment realm as a reference. Although his body was actually very similar to the little blue dragon's dragon body, the cultivation method was very different and could not be copied. I've finally grown up. After freeing himself from the disappointment, Yang Tian quickly discovered the changes in his body and shouted excitedly. At this time, in Yang Tian's mind, Hui Yi's resentful eyes appeared. Yang Tian could not help but laugh. Boom, boom, boom. A long time had passed, but at this time, there were still continuous explosions in the surroundings. The pressure in the space was still increasing. At this time, even Ku Man, who was close to the soul travel realm, could not withstand the pressure on his body. Chapter 742. Ku Man gritted his teeth as he poured the energy from the energy world into his body, forming a strong defense. Due to the powerful pressure, his black robe was pressed tightly against his body, revealing his graceful figure. Even though he was old, Ku Man's body was still the same as a young girl's. Boom! Suddenly, there was another loud explosion in the entire space. Following the sudden explosion, the red flames around them were suddenly extinguished. Without the flames, the temperature around them began to drop. However, even though the speed of the airflow had decreased, the pressure in the space did not seem to be decreasing. Without the red flames, he could see everything around him. The entire space was filled with red debris. These were all formed by the destruction of the natural rune energy lines. As the airflow around them became weaker and weaker, the fragments of the rune energy lines around Yang Tian began to flow into the black hole above Yang Tian's head and were converted into pure energy by the black hole. The black hole's operation also required energy. The energy that it had absorbed and converted was not even enough to support its own operation. Instead, it needed Yang Tian to provide it with some of the energy. In just a moment, Yang Tian's surroundings were cleared. Without energy to drive the violent airflow, it quickly calmed down under the invisible pressure in the space. If it were not for Yang Tian's black hole, the entire space would have become still. Yang Tian's black hole had now become an energy point that stirred up the space. First, the invisible energy around the black hole and the fragments of the rune energy lines were absorbed into the black hole. But as the black hole existed in this space for a longer period of time, its area of influence became wider and wider. What surprised Yang Tian was that he could move freely within the black hole's area of influence. But once he was out of the black hole's area of influence, he would have to face the invisible and enormous pressure. What was this place? As Yang Tian pulled the little blue dragon's huge body and moved quickly, he looked around curiously. Wherever he went, the fragments of the rune energy lines would be cleared away by the black hole. The light in the entire space was very dim, just like the night on Earth when there was no moon and only stars. Even if there were no obstructions, the dense rune energy fragments would only allow one to see things within 100 meters. Anything further away would become more and more blurred. Yang Tian soon realized that the light above his head was brighter. Yang Tian immediately carried the sleeping little blue dragon and flew upwards. After rising less than 100 meters, a floating figure appeared in Yang Tian's line of sight. It was obvious that this was the figure of a woman. Due to the pressure, this woman's clothes were stuck to the surface of her body, revealing the unique curves of a woman's body. Withered barbarian. Yang Tian didn't need to guess to know that it was Ku Man. In this strange space, other than himself, the only other person left was Ku Man. Yang Tian's eyes narrowed slightly as his brain spun rapidly. By the looks of it, Ku Man was affected by the pressure in this space, and her movements were affected. Otherwise, she wouldn't have remained motionless. This was the perfect time to kill Ku Man. Without hesitation, Yang Tian took out the red saber 15 from his storage bracelet and slashed at Ku Man. Whoosh! A red saber chi was formed and it was sent toward Ku Man's body. Pung! Even though they were less than 100 meters apart, Yang Tian's sharp saber chi had instantly landed on Ku Man's body. In fact, when Yang Tian discovered her, Ku Man had already sensed it. However, under the immense pressure, it was difficult for her to even move a finger, let alone dodge. She could only try her best to gather more energy to strengthen her defense. The saber chi landed on Ku Man's body and clashed with her body. But it didn't manage to cut her body into pieces. After a bang, Ku Man's clothes were torn to shreds by the energy and flew everywhere. Seeing that Ku Man's body was unscathed, Yang Tian was not surprised. He continued to slash at her. Who knew how long the strange pressure in this space would last? If the pressure suddenly disappeared and Ku Man regained her ability to move, he would have to run away with the little blue dragon again. Therefore, he had to kill Ku Man before she could move. At the very least, he had to severely injure her. I will slash, I will slash, I will slash, bang, bang, bang. Yang Tian gritted his teeth and kept on swinging the red saber chi in his hand. The first saber chi had already torn most of Ku Man's clothes. Then came the second, the third. After dozens of slashes, all of Ku Man's clothes had been torn to shreds and she was naked. Ku Man had never been humiliated like this before. Her heart was filled with hatred, and she clenched her silver teeth so hard that they creaked. Once she regained her freedom, she would want to die together with Yang Tian. As the number of slashes increased, Yang Tian became more and more surprised. Ku Man's body was as hard as steel. Hundreds of slashes from the saber chi could not tear her body apart. At this moment, Yang Tian really hoped that the little blue dragon would wake up. With the little blue dragon's ability, it should be able to easily kill Ku Man, who could not move. After slashing more than 100 times, Yang Tian stopped and put some distance between him and Ku Man. He knew that the black hole's range was expanding. If Ku Man's body was also engulfed by it, it would be a disaster for him if Ku Man regained her ability to move. Yang Tian, the pressure in this space has begun to weaken. After putting some distance between Ku Man and himself, the strange program's voice suddenly sounded in Yang Tian's mind. What's going on? Yang Tian asked angrily. The strange program did not answer Yang Tian, because Yang Tian quickly thought of the reason. The pressure in this space must have been caused by the violent airflow. The space he was in before and the space he was in now should be connected. The intense and continuous explosions, in addition to the high temperature, caused the airflow to compress at an extremely fast speed. If the explosions stopped, the airflow would flow back. In addition, the flames would be extinguished and the temperature would drop. The pressure in this space would naturally weaken, and the speed would increase. The reason Yang Tian could move freely was because the black hole formed an outlet for the air pressure in this space. Naturally, the pressure would not be as great as outside. After thinking through this problem, Yang Tian could not help but smile bitterly. If he could not kill Ku-man in a short period of time, or even kill him, he would be killed by Ku-man very soon. The reason he could not heavily injure Ku-man was because the energy of his attack was not strong enough. In that case, he would gather his strongest energy and deal the final blow to Ku-man. However, he would have to pay a price for doing so. As soon as he thought of this, Yang Tian raised his blade and poured all the energy in his body into the red blade in his hand. Buzz buzz buzz, as the energy continued to pour into the blade, the red blade called 15 emitted a buzzing sound. The red blade slowly lit up and emitted a blood-red glow. Withered Barbarian could naturally feel the powerful energy fluctuations from less than 200 meters away. The pressure in the surrounding space was decreasing rapidly. At this moment, Ku-man could already move slowly. She turned her head and saw a blood-red glow. Under the illumination of this red glow, Ku-man could clearly see the expression on Yang Tian's face. Yang Tian was gritting his teeth and staring coldly at her. Ku-man could not help but feel a chill in her heart when she saw Yang Tian's expression. Seeing that Ku-man could move, Yang Tian became even more anxious and increased the speed of the energy transfer. At this moment, Yang Tian's origin power was flowing at a speed that Yang Tian could not bear. The weak organs in his body had already suffered some damage. Yang Tian's eyes, the corners of his eyes, and his nose were already bleeding. Ku-man knew that Yang Tian was preparing to give her his strongest attack. She was not sure if she could block it. In truth, it was not that her body had not suffered any damage from Yang Tian's 100 or so blades. Furthermore, Ku-man's energy had been greatly depleted. Even if she could move freely now, she would not be able to fully unleash the power of the blade she had slashed at Yang Tian. To Yang Tian, it would take time. It was the same for Ku-man. At this moment, a bright light suddenly shone from above. It was as if someone had opened the lid of this space. At the same time, a powerful aura came down from above. The air pressure in this space suddenly had a place to vent and disappeared in an instant. The rising airflow once again carried Yang Tian, the little blue dragon, and Ku-man's body and flew upwards. Pfft! The sudden disappearance of the pressure caused Ku-man's body to be unable to adapt. She could not help but spit out a mouthful of blood. After spitting out a mouthful of blood, Ku-man became more clear-headed. She moved and flew upwards. For Ku-man, the disappearance of the pressure was just too timely. If she had waited a little longer, perhaps Yang Tian's strongest attack would have landed on her. You want to run? Humph! Yang Tian snorted coldly in his mind. He held his blade with both hands and slashed. This was Yang Tian's most powerful slash. It had condensed the largest amount of energy that he had ever used. This energy had never been so condensed before. Also, this attack used the profound of the snow cleaver. The red blade chi shot out from the blade. It was a thin piece. Such powerful energy was only the size of a palm. At this time, Ku-man had already left. All that was left was an afterimage. The red blade chi pierced through the split shadow before it disappeared and landed on the withered barbarian's back. With a puff, it pierced through the withered barbarian's twin peak. Ku-man did not expect that Yang Tian's attack would be so fast and so powerful. She thought that she could dodge it. Looking at the red mark that was a foot long on her chest, Ku-man's vision went dark. Her mind suddenly became blurry. She could not die. Ku-man used all her willpower to bite the tip of her tongue. She immediately became more clear-headed. In her blurry vision, she saw the Grand Master flying toward her from above. Chapter 743. After taking that attack, Ku-man was heavily injured and her life force was extremely weak. But she was still alive. Since the first attack did not kill her, then he would attack her a second time. Just as Yang Tian was gathering energy for the second attack, a purple-black shadow suddenly rushed down from above and flew toward the heavily injured Ku Man. The purple-black shadow had a powerful aura. As soon as it appeared, it gave Yang Tian a lot of pressure. It was the Grand Master of the temple. Yang Tian immediately realized that it must be the Grand Master of the Everlasting Temple. He must have come to save Ku Man. From the powerful aura the other party released when he appeared, Yang Tian could tell that this Hall Master would not allow him to attack again. So what if the Grand Master was here? This time, he had to kill Ku Man. This old woman had tried to kill him time and time again. He could not let her live. Otherwise, it would be even more troublesome in the future. After thinking about it quickly, Yang Tian did not stop and slashed at Ku Man again. This slash was not as powerful as before. But to the heavily injured Ku Man, it was still a fatal attack. Whoosh! Another stream of condensed sword chi was shot out from the red longsword in Yang Tian's hand and flew toward Ku Man. The one who came to save Ku Man was the Grand Master of the Everlasting Temple. Kuxing was very fast, but he was too far away from Ku Man. Kuxing thought that when he appeared, Yang Tian would give him face and stop because he had already sent out the signal to stop. But to his surprise, Yang Tian still attacked without any hesitation. Seeing the red sword chi flying toward Ku Man, Kuxing waved his hand and a black light flew toward the red sword chi that Yang Tian had sent out. The black light was one of Kuxing's weapons. As it flew, it emitted space runes and accelerated. At that moment, Yang Tian opened his eyes wide and gritted his teeth. He used his powerful willpower to control the sword chi so that it would not be released too quickly. Yang Tian also used his mental power to release the saber chi. The black light was about to block the red saber chi. With a thought from Yang Tian, the saber chi suddenly doubled in speed and hit Ku Man's body before the black light could reach it. Pft! A muffled sound rang out. When Yang Tian sent out this red-colored saber chi, it blasted a large hole in Ku Man's chest. Looking at the large hole in his chest, Ku Man closed his eyes in despair. If it was just a simple huge wound on her chest with her physique, there was still a chance for her to survive. However, Yang Tian's blade energy was made up of origin power. Now that she had exhausted all her energy, Withered Barbarian could no longer stop the origin power from rampaging through her body. With one last glance, Ku Man saw Kuxing appear in front of him. Then, his consciousness fell into endless darkness. He had finally killed Ku Man. It was not easy at all. If it wasn't for the fact that Ku Man had used up so much energy to resist the pressure of this space, Yang Tian would not have been able to kill him so easily. For an elite like Ku Man, there was a certain amount of luck. For example, at the very last moment, the temple master of the temple had come to save him. If it wasn't for Yang Tian's decisiveness, Ku Man would have escaped death. Kuxing stood in the air in front of Ku Man's body and frowned. This was the first time that he had failed to save someone when he wanted to. For a temple master, this was a very shameful thing. Moreover, it had happened in front of so many people. Ku Man's body was eroded by Yang Tian's origin power and quickly melted. It was like wax being baked by heat. In the void where there was no gravity, it quickly turned into drops of red liquid of different sizes and scattered in all directions. Kuxing turned around and waved his hand. A black flame rose up around him and burned all the disgusting and sticky things made of dead body cells to ashes. Kuxing stared coldly at Yang Tian from less than 200 meters away. Yang Tian finally saw Kuxing's appearance. It was indeed the temple master of the Everlasting Temple. Kuxing. Yang Tian knew that he would soon face the wrath of the Everlasting Temple Master. This was an opponent countless times stronger than Ku Man. In this world, powerhouses of this realm should be invincible for the time being. In truth, Yang Tian did not want to face such an enemy. But what was done was done. It was impossible to regret it. Yang Tian did not have any feelings of regret in his mind. Even if he could do it again, he would still choose to kill Ku Man under Kuang Xing's nose. Because even if he did not kill Ku Man, Kuang Xing would not let him go. To the arrogant temple, killing one of its members was a matter of zero tolerance. Kuang Xing stared coldly at Yang Tian and did not make a move. It was not that Kuang Xing did not want to kill Yang Tian. It was because Yang Tian was too weak for him. He only needed to move his finger to kill him. Kuang Xing wanted to see the fear and despair in Yang Tian's eyes. Perhaps sensing Kuang Xing's powerful and sharp aura, the little blue dragon suddenly opened its eyes and woke up. Soon, it stared coldly at Kuang Xing with its huge dragon eyes. Kuang Xing did not see fear in Yang Tian's eyes. Instead, he saw determination. Although he was curious about Yang Tian's sudden increase in speed and the huge black sphere above Yang Tian's head that could absorb energy, he became even angrier when he saw Yang Tian's eyes. He slowly raised his right hand and pointed his index finger at Yang Tian's forehead. At the same time, an even sharper aura emanated from Kuang Xing's body. Yang Tian knew that Kuang Xing's fingertips would release a powerful energy in the next moment. The shadow of death loomed over Yang Tian's heart, but Yang Tian still stubbornly stared at his eyes. Wait for death? That was definitely not Yang Tian's style. In a short period of time, he thought of countless ways to dodge and escape, but he rejected them all in the end. Kuang Xing was simply too powerful. He felt that if he made any strange movements, a powerful attack would fall on him and destroy him. Even so, Yang Tian still used his mind power to surround himself. The strange program was releasing the last of its energy to form a space talisman array with extremely strong defense. Under the control of Yang Tian's mind, the black hole above his head was absorbing energy at a faster rate. The little blue dragon was ready to help Yang Tian block Kuang Xing's attack again. Kuang Xing was naturally aware of Yang Tian and the little blue dragon's actions. Yang Tian's preparations were like layers of paper in front of him. They were completely useless. Wait! Just as Kuang Xing was about to make a move, a strange young man's voice suddenly came from above. Before the voice died away, a white figure flashed and Jimmy in a white robe appeared beside Kuang Xing. We can't kill this person for now, Jimmy said to Kuang Xing after arriving. Why? Kuang Xing put down his finger that was pointing at Yang Tian and asked. Jimmy said, because only he can take us out of here. Chapter 744. The conversation between Kuang Xing and Jimmy reached Yang Tian's ears. From their conversation, Yang Tian knew that they had encountered another sealed space after coming out of the first one. Yang Tian already knew about this. Whether it was in the previous sealed space or this one, it was impossible to activate the teleportation talisman array and leave directly. In other words, the space was locked by a powerful teleportation talisman array. Although the Palace Master of the Limitless Temple, Kuang Xing, Jimmy of the Sky Domain Temple, and Yu Gui of the Starry Sky Temple could work together to break the previous sealed space, they were helpless against this one. This was because breaking this sealed space wasn't something that could be done with brute force. Instead, it required a certain level of skill. How did Jimmy know that Yang Tian could do it? Of course, it was because of Hui Chanchan's reminder. To the people sealed in this space, Yang Tian was now a treasure. During the time when Yang Tian and Ku Man encountered each other, whether it was the talisman masters of the three temples, the elites of the various clans, or the rogue cultivators, they were all helpless against this sealed space. Of course, the Black Talisman Lord also tried, but he failed. If you can do it, I'll give you a chance to live. Kuang Xing thought for a moment, stared coldly at Yang Tian, and said indifferently. Hearing Kuang Xing's words, Yang Tian finally breathed a sigh of relief. At least for a short time, he did not have to worry about his life being in danger. Yang Tian remembered Kuang Xing's strength deeply in his heart, and swore that he would definitely defeat this guy in the future. This became Yang Tian's short-term goal. Seeing Yang Tian's eyes, Kuo-shing knew what Yang Tian was thinking and said disdainfully, "You will never be able to do it." "Never be able to do it?" Yang Tian sneered in his heart and did not comment. This was not the time to argue with Kuo-shing over such a small matter. Jimmy smiled. "Okay, let's go. We've been delayed for a long time, and we don't know what's going on outside. Don't forget our plan." After saying that, Jimmy said to Yang Tian, "If you can do it, you can enter my heaven realm divine palace." Since Kuo-shing said that Yang Tian could break the seal of this space, Jimmy cherished talents and naturally would not let go of such a talent like Yang Tian. Kuo-shing didn't say anything. He raised his head and looked up. Then, he turned into a black light and rushed up. Soon, he disappeared from Yang Tian's sight. Yang Tian put away the black hole, and the little blue dragon turned back into mini dragon and returned to Yang Tian's shoulder. The little blue dragon coiled comfortably on Yang Tian's shoulders after he recovered to normal, and Yang Tian's shoulders became wider. Jimmy looked at Yang Tian, smiled, and raised her hand. Suddenly, a powerful and irresistible force wrapped around Yang Tian's body. Yang Tian instinctively wanted to struggle, but he discovered that his vision suddenly became blurry, and his body quickly rose up. Yang Tian knew that Jimmy was using his power to bring him flying, so he relaxed his body. Actually, struggling is useless because Yang Tian knows that even if he uses all his strength, he won't be able to break free from Jimmy's power. The Palace Master's power is indeed terrifying. Yang Tian has to admit that if he didn't have some use for these people, he would definitely die under Kuo-shing's hand. The flying time was not long. In less than a minute, Yang Tian felt his body stop. When his vision recovered, Yang Tian discovered that he has arrived at a place that looks like an underground cave. The cave is very large. The ceiling of the cave is about 100 meters from the ground. Densely packed cultivators are gathered here. The moment he appeared in this place, Yang Tian could clearly feel waves of spatial energy fluctuations coming from his surroundings. It was very chaotic. At least hundreds of thousands of cultivators are trapped in this cave. At the edge, some symbol masters are using all their methods to break through the formless spatial energy that is trapping them. There are also some cultivators who are directly attacking the formless spatial energy barrier. No matter how much power they use, they will silently disappear when they hit the formless spatial energy barrier. After Jimmy brought Yang Tian out, most of the cultivators' gazes gathered on Yang Tian. Many of their gazes are filled with suspicion. Seeing Yang Tian being brought out by Jimmy, Huey Miao Miao, Huey Chan Chan, and Huey Baixing can't help but sigh in relief. Clearly, they all know what Yang Tian had just experienced. Yang Tian scanned his surroundings and was quickly attracted by a black tree stump in front of him. This tree stump is about 3 meters in diameter, and there seems to be a monitor placed inside. When you look inside, you can see the space Yang Tian was in and everything in this space. Spatial symbol arrays are just that mysterious. Although it doesn't look big, it can hold a part of the world. What makes Yang Tian feel a little strange is how he and Ku Man got inside, while the others are outside. Let's begin. Space Sky Sacred Halls Yu Gui said impatiently when he saw Yang Tian observe the space inside the tree stump. Yang Tian raised his head and glanced at Yu Gui before walking quickly to the side of the cave. When they saw Yang Tian walk over, the surrounding cultivators immediately opened up a path. Yang Tian stuck close to the edge of the symbol array in the cave and walked around quickly before returning to the tree stump. The entire process took about half an hour. Yang Tian, how did it go? When Yang Tian finished his inspection, Black Talisman Lord walked up and asked anxiously. Ever since they came down and got trapped, Black Talisman Lord had lost contact with Shi Chen Yuyu and the others. Black Talisman Lord was sure that the goddess had already arrived, but she didn't come down. This place is too strange. Black Talisman Lord was very worried that as time passed, the goddess wouldn't be able to resist coming down and getting trapped. Yang Tian walked around the symbol array, pretending to be thinking about how to break the symbol array. In reality, he was planning how to break free from the sacred hall after opening the symbol array. Yang Tian didn't believe Kuo-shing's words. Even if Kuo-shing didn't do anything to him, Jimi would probably forcefully bring him to the Sky Domain Sacred Hall. After seeing Jimi's androgynous appearance, Yang Tian felt a chill run down his spine. With the strange programming's huge computing power, it had already found out the area covered by the symbol array and the way it was formed. This was the most important step. Once this problem was solved, it would be very easy to break the symbol array. Black Talisman Lord's problem was something that many people were anxious to know. After experiencing the dangers from before, apart from a few people who obtained some benefits, most people were afraid and wanted to leave immediately. Yang Tian lowered his head and pretended to think. He looked up at Black Talisman Lord and said lightly, "Don't worry. Give me some time and we will be able to get out." Hearing Yang Tian's reply, everyone heaved a sigh of relief. Chapter 745. The Talisman Master's Talisman Array was connected to another talisman array. Yang Tian could guess that after leaving this talisman array, he would encounter another talisman array. After breaking this talisman array, it would be impossible to get rid of the people from the temple. He could only place his hopes on the next talisman array. Right now, he had to deal with this talisman array first. If he stayed here for too long, it would only benefit the Talisman Master. This tree stump is the core of this talisman array. It is also the source of energy. If my guess is correct, this was originally a black tree, but it was destroyed by someone. Yang Tian pointed at the tree stump and glanced at Kuo-shing, Jimi, and Yu Gui. After Yang Tian finished speaking, Jimi and Kuo-shing turned their heads and looked at Yu Gui. Yu Gui only snorted coldly. Very clearly, this black tree was destroyed by Yu Gui. Actually, this was a very normal thing. The black tree was too strange. Even if Yang Tian saw it, his first thought would be to destroy it. Stop talking nonsense. Let's begin. Seeing Yu Gui's dissatisfied expression, Kuo-shing didn't say anything. He stared at Yang Tian and said coldly. Yang Tian ignored Kuo-shing and raised his right hand. The strange program controlled small particles of rune energy to fly out from Yang Tian's body. They circled around Yang Tian and landed in Yang Tian's hand, forming a triangle. In order to help Yang Tian block Ku-man's attack, the strange program had consumed a large amount of rune energy. These small particles were already very sparse. After the small particles formed a triangle, Yang Tian raised his left hand and waved it. The triangle immediately scattered and flew out from Yang Tian's hand. It formed a vertical disc in front of Yang Tian. It looked like a Tai Chi diagram. Because the strange program consumed too much energy, to break this talisman array, Yang Tian had to provide a portion of the energy. Following the strange program, Yang Tian raised both of his hands, his palms and fingers forming a series of afterimages. Yang Tian had used this method to decipher rune arrays many times. In addition, Yang Tian's body had been modified by a strange program. When he used his hands to release rune energy, it was much smoother than before. Not to mention his peers, even in the eyes of outsiders, Yang Tian's movements were very graceful. Even Kuo-shing, who was extremely dissatisfied with Yang Tian, could not help but feel a trace of appreciation for talent when he looked at Yang Tian. Needless to say, Jimi and Yu Gui, the two hall masters who did not have any direct enmity with Yang Tian, felt the same way. Kuo-shing quickly discarded the good impression he had of Yang Tian because he knew that Yang Tian, who had killed Ku-man, would never become a member of the Limitless Temple. Waves of powerful rune energy were released from Yang Tian's hands. The world inside the tree stump in front of him rippled like water being blown by the wind. Just like that, after about 10 minutes, the world inside the tree stump gradually released a faint red light after the ripples calmed down. It looked like the light emitted by red lava. All right, the exit is open. At this time, Yang Tian finally put down his hands, and the strange program returned to his body. It didn't break. As soon as Yang Tian's voice fell, a middle-aged man standing outside shouted loudly. Because the invisible spatial energy barrier in the cave hadn't disappeared. Yang Tian turned around and glanced at that person, saying indifferently, "It's impossible to break those spatial barriers because they are formed by external rune arrays. The entrance is the exit. Forget it, you wouldn't understand even if I told you." After saying that, Yang Tian turned around and looked at Kuxing. Kuxing didn't believe Yang Tian, so he naturally wouldn't be the first to go down. He raised his hand and waved. A disciple behind Kuxing was stunned. His expression changed a few times before he gritted his teeth and jumped into the exit. After that person went down, he quickly became a small black dot in Yang Tian's line of sight and disappeared. At this time, the situation in the space below couldn't be seen clearly like before. This disciple of the temple never returned. Even after waiting for a long time, he still didn't return. Kuxing looked at Yang Tian with a sharp gaze. Yang Tian saw Kuxing's gaze and said with a smile, "If you don't believe me, I can go down first." No. Kuxing coldly refused. As the temple master of the temple, he naturally had some knowledge of rune arrays. Some rune arrays were killing arrays to others, but the people who created them could move unimpeded. Kuxing didn't believe him, so Yang Tian had no other choice. Anyway, everyone would have to leave through here later. Actually, at this time, as long as Yang Tian entered this exit and entered the next rune array, he would have a chance to shake off Kuxing. But obviously, Kuxing had expected such a thing. Before returning to the surface, Kuxing wouldn't let Yang Tian out of his sight. Rumble, suddenly, the entire cave began to shake. Everyone looked outside the rune array and was shocked again. Space annihilation. Space annihilation again. They saw that the rocks in the distance of the cave began to disappear at an extremely fast speed. It became pitch black and spread towards here at an extremely fast speed. The appearance of space annihilation was naturally caused by Yang Tian opening the exit. This was also something that couldn't be helped. This seal rune array looked simple, but it was extremely complicated. It was very difficult to break the outer space energy barrier with Yang Tian's current strength. At the same time, it also required a lot of time. If Yang Tian had a few days, he could give it a try. But would the 3 palace masters be willing to give him a few days? The only way to leave this place quickly was through the exit. That was a passage that led to another rune array space. With the help of the strange program, no matter how powerful the rune array was, Yang Tian could still break through it. Since that was the case, why not create more trouble for these people? Let's go. Seeing that the space annihilation was about to arrive, everyone began to rush towards the exit. Kuxing shouted and rushed into the exit with Yang Tian. As long as he had Yang Tian by his side, even if Yang Tian did something to the rune array, Kuxing wouldn't be afraid. The moment they entered the exit, Yang Tian turned his head and glanced at Huey Meow Meow. Seeing that they were rushing in front and should be able to enter the exit before the space annihilation arrived, he was relieved. The speed of the space annihilation was faster than everyone had imagined. When Huey Meow Meow and the rest rushed into the exit, the space annihilation was less than 10 meters away from them. This time, at least tens of thousands of cultivators had been annihilated. Every stage that the Rune Master had set up would cause tens of thousands of cultivators to die. The exit was opened by Yang Tian. After passing through, Yang Tian didn't know where he would appear. When Kuxing carried him through the exit, it was like rushing into a red mirror. With a flash of red light, he appeared in a new environment. This was a dark red desert. At a glance, it was boundless. In the sky, there was a huge star, causing the temperature of the desert to be extremely high. If one took out an egg and placed it on the dark red sand, it would definitely become a cooked egg in less than 3 minutes. The harsh environment wasn't scary. What was scary was that there were all kinds of strange beasts around. These were no ordinary beasts. Every single one of them was extremely powerful. The aura they gave off was only slightly weaker than the huge tortoise that had been forced to its death earlier. Seeing these beasts, Kuo-shing frowned. He loosened his grip and let go of Yang Tian. Yang Tian patted his arm and smoothed out the clothes that had been wrinkled by Kuo-shing. He said indifferently, "We seem to have returned to the surface." Kuo-shing said, "This is the desert. These beasts came from the Sea of Stars a while ago. So they came here. No wonder they disappeared without a trace. They were actually beasts from the Sea of Stars." Yang Tian couldn't help but be startled. He knew they were in trouble. These beasts were all extremely powerful. 1 or 2 of them were already terrifying. However, there was a large group gathered here. There were at least 1,000 of them. If they couldn't win, they could run. However, this place had clearly been tampered with. There was a huge talisman formation enveloping this place, making it impossible for them to leave. If they wanted to live, they would have to kill all these beasts. More and more cultivators passed through the exit. Soon, there were thousands and tens of thousands of cultivators in the surroundings. What made Yang Tian feel strange was that these beasts only stood quietly in the distance, coldly looking at them. They didn't immediately attack. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.